Chapter 965. The Whale Gang's disciples and Rejuvenation Valley's disciples met up. Without further ado, they turned around and rushed back to the villa. Valley Head Nya was also a bit more cautious. He had the disciples cover their backs to prevent any accidents from happening. The Whale Gang disciples were astonished when they saw the Rejuvenation Manor shrouded in white mist. When they saw the passageway through the mist, their astonishment was indescribable. The leader of the group was an old man who wasn't very tall. His triangular eyes blinked continuously, revealing the envy in his heart. The two groups entered the white mist. The mist swirled and returned to its original state. When everyone disappeared into the white mist, Manor Master Long looked on expressionlessly from a distant mountain forest. He waved his hand and ordered, "Follow the plan." Yes. A disciple cupped his hands and left. A smile appeared on Manor Master Long's face as he disappeared into the forest. Elder Chong of the Whale Gang entered the white mist. All he could see was a vast expanse of whiteness. He couldn't see anything. He could only see the backs of the Rejuvenation Valley disciples. After following them for a long time and making several turns, his eyes suddenly lit up. He saw the Rejuvenation Manor from before. Elder Chang's shout came from behind him. "Valley Master Nya, my in-laws. I'm ashamed that I came late to your rescue." "Haha, there's no need to say anything. It's good that you came. Please come to 100 Herb Hall for a chat." Nya Qinyu also came out of the white mist. Her face was clearly paler than before. When she saw Nya Qianxiu, she said, "Second sister, your waist is injured?" Nya Qianxiu smiled and waved her hand. "It's nothing. It's just a cut from a sword. Hurry up and bandage it." Nya Qianrong also walked over. The three sisters chatted and entered the room. When everyone returned to 100 Herb Hall, Valley Master Nya said, "Old Brother Chong, this Nya can't thank you enough for coming to our aid. I heard from Qianxiu that you lost dozens of people at the Soaring Dragon Manor. This Nya is truly apologetic." Elder Chong cupped his hands and said, "Old Brother Nya, hee. This Chong hasn't come for a long time. I don't have any news. I'm afraid that you are a little not at all." Valley Master Nya shook his head with a smile. "Father-in-law, it's not that my Whale Gang didn't come to your aid in time. It's just that the Jade Foundation Alliance has already come to your aid. Even if my Whale Gang comes, we'll only be able to contribute some meager strength. It won't be of much use." Chong Sheng stood up and explained. After considering all of this, Father secretly contacted some sects in the southern Wulin that were dissatisfied with Longting Mountain Villa's actions. There were 11 sects in total. However, in order to conceal the news, we didn't dare to inform father-in-law, fearing that Longting Mountain Villa would find out. It was only yesterday that my Whale Gang led 11 sects and 300 people to Worry City. When Valley Master Nya heard this, his expression changed greatly. He stood up and walked in front of Old Man Chong. He bowed to the ground and said with shame, "Old Man Chong is so righteous, this Nya really can't compare. I'm ashamed. How could that be? You and I are related by marriage. Furthermore, the Soaring Dragon Manor has gone too far. Sending 11 sects as reinforcements isn't just the Whale Gang's idea, but the entire southern martial world's. This is also Rejuvenation Valley's repayment for their kindness to the southern martial arts world." Valley Master Nya seemed to understand now, and a gratified smile appeared on his face. "However, letting the Whale Gang charge into the encirclement and losing so many of our brothers really makes this Nya sad. Haha, living in the pugilistic world is like licking blood from a blade's edge. Everyone is prepared to die. Moreover, Rejuvenation Valley has always been known for their benevolence. Being able to shed their blood for you is also a worthy death." Old Man Chong was a bit dejected as he said, "Besides, if this Chong hadn't come and brought this news to Old Man Nya, even if our 11 sects disciples attacked from the outside, Rejuvenation Valley wouldn't have been able to coordinate with us and defeat Longting Mountain Villa." Valley Master Nya nodded. Old Man Chong's words are reasonable. Longting Mountain Villa has used all sorts of schemes to lure us out in the past 20 days, but we didn't fall for it. If Old Man Chong really did attack, my Rejuvenation Valley wouldn't dare believe it. This Longting Mountain Villa is also ruthless. They actually surrounded Rejuvenation Valley so tightly that not even a drop of water can trickle through. If it weren't for the other sects attracting attention from outside, my whale gang really wouldn't have been able to enter. But then again, this Chang didn't think that we would be able to attack Rejuvenation Valley so easily. Otherwise, this Chang wouldn't have waited for the news, and would have led people to attack directly. Old Man Chang, this is considered lucky. Rejuvenation Valley had just fought fiercely with Longting Mountain Villa for an entire night. If it were any other time, how could you have gotten so close? Old Man Yu said with a smile. Ah, is that so? Old Man Chang's face was full of astonishment. It seems that the heavens really are protecting Rejuvenation Valley, allowing this old man to enter so easily. Moreover, this is also the heavens' help. Our pincer attack this time was successful. This, gang leader Chang. Zhou Siqing coughed and said, The Jade Foundation Alliance hasn't thought of breaking out of the encirclement yet. This pincer attack, shouldn't we have a long-term plan? What? Are you going to defend Rejuvenation Valley to the death? Old Man Chang raised his eyebrows, feeling that this answer was extremely inconceivable. Although, the white fog outside the villa is very powerful, but if we are suppressed by Longting Mountain Villa, we can only retreat like a turtle. We can only be annihilated forever. Si Yakong stroked his beard and said with a smile, Old Man Chang, you're wrong. What Siqing said was only a long-term plan. She didn't say that we shouldn't break out of the encirclement. Right now, our Jade Foundation Alliance has easily taken over Rejuvenation Valley and killed many enemies of Longting Mountain Villa. If we suddenly change our strategy, it's possible. Old Man Chang didn't think much of it. He waved his hand and said, The men I've brought are currently lying in ambush in the forest not far from Rejuvenation Valley. If we cooperate with the outside, at the very least, most of us can escape from here. As the saying goes, where there's life, there's hope. As long as Brother Nya leads the disciples of Rejuvenation Valley out of here, there's always a chance for us to succeed. Moreover, if it's as Brother C says, that Longting Mountain Villa's vitality has been greatly damaged, and that even our whale gang can't stop them, then we should cooperate with them from the outside, and annihilate them in one go. Hearing these words and thinking about the 11 sects outside as reinforcements, even Si Yakong and the others felt a rush of excitement, let alone Valley Master Nya. However, they still couldn't be sure if there were really people from the 11 sects outside the valley. Gang leader Chang, then, how do we contact our brothers outside the valley? Ma Fuhu asked. Old Man Chang took out a signal from his bosom and said with a smile, This is my whale gang's special signal. Once we've finished our preparations, we'll follow our previous agreement. As long as we release this signal into the air, we'll attack from the inside out. Then gang leader Chang, what time did you agree on? Zhen Xian suddenly interrupted. Oh, I've temporarily agreed on midnight. Longting Mountain Villa has been attacking for a day, but they still haven't stopped at night? Isn't that when they're at their weakest? After Old Man Chang finished speaking, he said apologetically, But I didn't expect that Longting Mountain Villa would attack from morning to night. This is difficult. Si Yakong looked at Valley Master Nya and said, Then let's do as Gang Leader Chang says for now. Let's discuss it again. All right. Brother Chang, it must be tiring for you to come from afar. Why don't you take a rest first? Valley Master Nya stood up. Just as he was about to leave, he heard hurried footsteps outside. When he looked up, a Rejuvenation Valley disciple covered in blood ran in and said loudly, Reporting to Valley Master, Longting Mountain Villa has launched another attack. Third Miss, please hurry and take charge of the Great Formation. Also, the brothers of Rejuvenation Valley, who were lying in ambush in the Golden Formation, have suffered heavy casualties. There's almost no one who can fight. Valley Master, please think of a way. What? Longting Mountain Villa is attacking again? Nya Qinyu walked out with her two sisters. She was very surprised. Little you, I'm afraid that Longting Mountain Villa has seen us attack. Perhaps they're angry out of humiliation, or perhaps they're afraid that something unexpected will happen. That's why they seized the time to attack. Nya Qianxiu frowned. Then, she said to Valley Master Nya, Father, Rejuvenation Valley's matter this time might have something to do with my recommendation. I feel very guilty. Yes, father-in-law, your son-in-law thinks so too. If it wasn't for my nephew, then the incense cult might not have, Changsheng said sincerely. AI, now that things have come to this, what's the point of saying all this? Let's think of a way to get through this crisis. Valley Master Nia sighed and waved his hand. Seeing Nie Qianyu turn around and leave, Nie Qianxiu said anxiously, little sister, who doesn't even have the strength to truss a chicken, can still contribute to Rejuvenation Valley. My martial arts are even stronger than big sister's. There's no reason for me not to go. Father, I just heard a disciple report that our Rejuvenation Valley's disciples have suffered heavy casualties. Changsheng and I didn't bring many disciples this time, only a dozen or so. If we can contribute, then we'll contribute. When Valley Master Nia heard this, he frowned slightly. He raised his eyes and looked at Si Yakong. After exchanging a glance, he thought to himself, although the whale gang came suddenly, they're still relatives by marriage. Moreover, I was the one who presided over the 5 elements great formation. What can a dozen or so people do? Even if there are some abnormalities, it's fine. Thus he nodded and said, Rejuvenation Valley doesn't have any disciples left. If you want to go, then go. However, you must listen to Little Yu's arrangements. Otherwise, if you fall into the great formation, your lives will be in danger. Nie Qianxiu was overjoyed. She nodded and said, your daughter understands. Old Master Chang also stood up. In-law, I won't rest either. Let's get through this matter first. Oh, in that case, I'll have to trouble old brother Chang. Let's discuss the pincer attack tonight. Hehe, alright. Take your time to discuss. There's still time. Old Master Chang said as he led the whale gang members out with Nie Qianyu. Nie Qianyu brought the whale gang to a corner and briefly explained the things they needed to pay attention to. She pointed at a few Rejuvenation Valley disciples and said, Second sister, you don't need to take the initiative to attack. Just be like these disciples. Wait for the enemy to walk up to you, then quietly attack. However, you must take the enemy's life the moment you attack. Otherwise, you'll be exposed in front of them. Nie Qianxiu was shocked. Little you are? Since when did Rejuvenation Valley have such a miraculous thing? Why didn't I know about it? Nie Qianyu smiled but didn't answer. Nie Qianxiu said again, if you don't want to tell me, then forget it. Xiao Yu, go ahead. I can do such a simple thing well. Okay, be careful, second sister. Nie Qianyu nodded and left in a hurry. Less than half an hour after Nie Qianyu left, the battle cries of the soaring Dragon Mountain Villa drew closer. Nie Qianxiu looked at Changsheng and Changsheng looked at Old Master Chang. Both of them nodded, and the dozen or so whale gang disciples gathered around Nie Qianxiu. Nie Qianxiu calmly took out something from her bosom. Chapter 966. By the time the battle cries from the soaring dragon villa drew closer, the whale gang disciples had already formed a circle. Nie Qianxiu stood in the middle, taking out a diamond-shaped object from her bosom. The object was light purple, and a tear-shaped object was suspended in the middle of the diamond-shaped object. This should be the place. Elder Chang looked around and said, Villa Lord Long said that this object must be placed in a place where the Rejuvenation Valley disciples appear. It cannot be placed anywhere else. At this moment, a person dressed in whale gang disciple robes stepped out from the crowd and walked up to Elder Chang. He smiled and said, This is the place. Thank you for your hard work, gang leader Chang. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have been able to find this place no matter how much effort we put in. You're welcome. This is part of my duty. It's all for the master's plan. Elder Chang said politely. The ordinary disciple didn't say anything else. He walked up to Nie Qianxiu and took the diamond-shaped object. He sat cross-legged in the middle of the crowd, holding the object in his right hand, and taking out a small stone from his bosom with his left hand. The disciple circulated his energy for a long time. The small stone in his left hand glowed faintly. At the same time, the diamond-shaped object in his right hand glowed purple. Although the purple light was dim, when it shone on the white mist, it was like boiling water splashing on snow. The white mist immediately disappeared. This disappearance seemed to spread. Silently, a large patch of white mist didn't even wait for the purple light to pass through. It immediately turned transparent. Not only that, but at the same time, the white fog in other parts of the Five Elements formation also disappeared abruptly, revealing the Jade Foundation Alliance disciples hidden within. More and more of the white fog was disappearing at an increasing speed, like a chain reaction. In less than 10 minutes, all the Jade Foundation Alliance disciples were exposed. Even Nie Qianyu, who was commanding the formation, and Valley Master Nie, who was channeling his inner energy, were exposed. This Nie Qianyu's face was filled with astonishment. "Father, what's going on?" Valley Master Nie activated a key stone in his hand, trying to activate the Five Elements formation. However, using his inner energy to simulate true energy, the keystone only glowed faintly before disappearing. "Whale Gang," Nie Qianyu immediately thought. Sure enough, a wild laugh rang out from where the Whale Gang was. "Manor Lord Long's plans are flawless. Valley Master Nie, you should just surrender." Wasn't that old Master Chang's voice? "Let's go." When Valley Master Nie heard this, he immediately pulled Nie Qianyu and rushed back to 100 Herb Hall. Behind them, the battle cries of the Soaring Dragon Mountain Villa were several times louder than before. They must have been prepared for the Whale Gang's scheme to succeed. The battle cries of Longting Villa had long alarmed everyone in 100 Herb Hall. Seeing Nie Qianyu, who was commanding the Five Elements formation, and Valley Master Nie, who was controlling the Five Elements formation, returning, they were all shocked. Si Yakong shouted, "Nie you just went out without telling Old Man Chang. Why, let's not talk about it anymore. We've all been deceived by Old Chang. He was sent by Longting Villa." Ing Zhizhu stomped his foot and cursed. "Damn it. I knew that there was something wrong with this fellow. However, he still managed to sneak up on me. But right now, with the Longting Villa going all out, I'm afraid that our Jade Establishment Alliance, don't panic." Valley Master Nie's expression didn't change. He waved his hand and said, "Before Longting Villa attacks, let's set up an empty fort strategy and escape from the back mountains of Rejuvenation Valley." "Back mountains?" Si Yakong asked curiously. "Aren't the mountains of Rejuvenation Valley all extremely tall? What kind of path would there be?" "Enough idle chatter." Valley Master Nie snorted. "Rejuvenation Valley has been operating here for 1,000 years. How could we not have a backup plan? Only the Valley Master of Rejuvenation Valley knows about this path. Even little you doesn't know about it. Alright, there's no time to lose. Let's go." The members of the Jade Foundation Alliance saw that they had a chance of survival, and did not intend to fight Longting Villa head-on. They counted their men and immediately retreated into the inner valley. The members of the Jade Foundation Alliance had been guarding Rejuvenation Valley for more than 20 days. Now, there were only a few dozen of them left. They left a few men of sacrifice to guard the entrance of the valley, while the rest followed Valley Master Nie to the elixir refinement area in the inner valley. Valley Master Nie walked to the elixir refinement room. There were 2 earth fires inside. One of them had an elixir furnace while the other was empty. Valley Master Nie walked to the front of the elixir furnace and hugged it without hesitation. He exerted force in his arms and rotated the elixir furnace 3 times in the direction of the furnace. Then he rotated it 4 times in the opposite direction. Everyone heard a creaking sound, and a stone cave appeared on the stone wall on the left. Inside the stone cave, there was a flight of stairs that led to the top. "Let's go." Valley Master Nie heard the noise outside the valley and urged them. After everyone had entered the stone cave, Valley Master Nie moved to a spot inside the stone cave, and the stone cave slowly closed up. Outside the elixir refinement room, a commotion could be heard. The interior of the stone cave was pitch black. Yu Zhonglin lit a torch in the stone cave, and led Nie Qianrong and Nie Qianxiu in the front. Behind them, everyone lit their own torches. "Little you, did you know there was a mountain path here?" Nie Qianrong asked quietly. "I didn't know. I've never heard Father mention it before. This is also my first time here," Nie Qianyu said without hesitation. Seeing how certain Nie Qianyu was, Nie Qianrong didn't ask any further. Everyone looked curiously at the man-made staircase and quietly climbed up. The staircase was very long, and it took them a full hour to walk out of the cave. Everyone's eyes lit up. When they saw clearly, they had actually arrived at the peak of Rejuvenation Valley's inner valley. Si Yakong shook his head and said, "Second brother Nia, you really hit it well. I never knew that your Rejuvenation Valley had such a secret passage." Beside him, Old Man Yu also asked curiously, "Brother Nia, your Rejuvenation Valley is also strange. Why don't you just dig a secret passage that leads to the outside of the valley? What's the use of running to the top of the mountain?" Valley Master Nia smiled and said, "Brother Yu, I'll let you know that there is a secret passage that leads to the outside of the valley. However, the two secret passages are not together. As for why, the previous Valley Master didn't explain, so I can't answer you." Zhen Xian stomped his feet and said, "Maybe there's earth fire in this mountain. Or maybe there's some rock that can't be directly excavated. That's why we have to go to the top of the mountain first, and then go out of the valley? Who knows? I'm afraid it's not the time to be calculative. Let's get out of the valley first." Ma Fuhu urged. Don't worry. This secret passage can't be found by Longting Mountain Villa no matter what. We should rest here and wait until we have enough energy, or when Longting Mountain Villa's guard outside the valley relaxes. It won't be too late to go down. Valley Master Nia squinted his eyes and looked at the sun directly above his head. Ha! Just as Valley Master Nia's voice fell, a burst of wild laughter came from behind everyone. "Valley Master Nia, how have you been? I just wanted to talk to you. Why is it so difficult? How did you find this secret passage?" Valley Master Nia turned around and asked incredulously with his eyes wide open. "Is there even a need to ask? Of course, it's because of your precious second daughter." Manor Master Long laughed and pointed at Nia Qianxiu, who just walked out of the secret passage. "Qianxiu, you!" Valley Master Nia said angrily. "How can you be such a traitor? Father, look at what you're saying. I'm a married woman, a spilled water. It's not like I'm a traitor." Nia Qianxiu smiled and said, "Besides, what's the use of guarding the fragrant religion? You've worked hard for so many years, and they still didn't protect you. It's better to follow the master." "Master?" Valley Master Nia was shocked. "Who's your master?" This Nia Qianxiu realized her slip of the tongue and immediately covered it up. "Let's not talk about this first. You'll know sooner or later. The point is, if the fragrant religion doesn't protect Rejuvenation Valley, then Rejuvenation Valley will become a big piece of fat meat in the pugilistic world. You've seen it too. Cold Ice Garden, Divergent Yellow Mountain. They're all eyeing it covetously. Rather than letting them benefit, why not let my daughter benefit? Don't you think so?" Valley Master Nia was so angry that his face turned white. "Besides, I've asked the emissary for a promise from the master. If you submit to the master, then our Rejuvenation Valley won't be divided up by others. Father can still be the Valley Master of Rejuvenation Valley. You can just let me be the Valley Master of Rejuvenation Valley after 100 years. "Evil creature!" Valley Master Nia scolded. "Father, don't be angry. This is all my wishful thinking. I still don't know if His Excellency will agree. His Excellency possesses remarkable abilities. If His Excellency doesn't agree, our Rejuvenation Valley will only have the path of annihilation. Of course, I and the Whale Gang have contributed a little to the master. Who knows, maybe the master will agree." As they spoke, more and more people came to the mountain peak of the Soaring Dragon Mountain Villa. They surrounded the Jade Foundation Alliance in front of a stone wall. "Old Nia, is there still a need to consider? Your daughter is doing this for your own good. She has no choice but to do this. She's also saving your Rejuvenation Valley. Bah, if it weren't for this evil creature, how could my Rejuvenation Valley be invaded by you? Now that you've turned black and white upside down, it's all your fault." Old Nia, you think too highly of yourself. It's just a 5 elements formation. If it weren't for the fact that I don't have anything useful, I would have broken it long ago. How do you know this is a 5 elements formation? Valley Master Nia was a little surprised. Is there a need to ask? Of course it was the master who taught me. The master is a celestial being. His wisdom is as vast as the sea, and his abilities are vast. Your little tricks are nothing in his eyes. Manor Master Long then shouted. Old Nia, haven't you realized it yet? Even now, you're still thinking of spreading the incense order's protection? Why don't you submit to the master now? That way, you can still escape with your life. Also, give your Nia Qianyu to me as a concubine. Only then can I get rid of the shame of being humiliated by a nameless junior. Another voice said arrogantly. Nia Qianyu was ashamed and angry. When she looked up, she saw Mr. Long walking out of the secret passage. Chapter 967. Young Master Long was still as handsome as ever. However, the lustful expression on his face revealed all his ugliness. When the sect masters of Freezing Ice Garden and the other sects heard Villa Master Long of Soaring Dragon Manor mention something about master, they were shocked. Which one of them wasn't a sly old fox who had been in the pugilistic world for a long time? When they heard that Villa Master Long seemed to be summoning them to surrender, which was different from their agreement, their expressions changed subconsciously. When they heard young Master Long's arrogance, their hearts were once again at ease. Frozen Ice Garden's sect master Peng smiled and said, Young Master Long is indeed a dragon among men. Your words are exactly what this old man wants. Rejuvenation Valley used his daughter as bait to lure us in and humiliated us. Now that we have taken down Rejuvenation Valley, we will humiliate his daughter and give them a taste of their own medicine. Flying Fish Sect's Zhoutai stood beside Villa Master Long and whispered, Villa Master Long, right now, we're like fire and water with Rejuvenation Valley and Yuli Alliance. How can there be any room for reconciliation? Why don't we destroy them on the spot? 1 valley, 2 sects, and 3 horse farms will be our spoils of war. We can discuss it later. A bunch of ignorant fools. Manor Master Long despised these boorish people from the bottom of his heart. He thought to himself, who knows how many treasures this Jade Foundation Alliance has behind the scenes? Even this 5 elements formation. If it wasn't for Master's men, how could we have broken it? Just Rejuvenation Valley alone has the legendary item of the Immortal Tao. Needless to say, the other 4 sects have even more. Of course, I have my reasons to persuade them to surrender. Before Villa Master Long could speak, Valley Master Nia laughed bitterly. If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. Old Fogey Long, bring out your sword and let me experience it. As he spoke, he waved the sword in his hand and leaped towards Villa Master Long. Haha, little Nia. How can I not know how good your martial arts are? Even if I let you have 8 to 10 moves, you're still no match for me. Seeing that there was no room for reconciliation, Villa Master Long thrust his sword forward. The 2 of them stood in a circle. Brothers, we'd rather die than live in dishonor. The Yuli Alliance only has men who die on the ground. There are no pussies who live on the ground. Go, let's fight it out with Soaring Dragon Manor. Mafuhu roared and charged forward. The 2 forces immediately clashed. Yu Zhonglin was originally standing beside Nia Qianrong and Nia Qianyu to protect them. Now that someone was attacking them, he was also defending himself. As he drew his sword, he didn't forget to remind Nia Qianrong. Qianrong, little Yu doesn't know any martial arts. Protect her carefully. Yes, I know. Be careful. Nia Qianrong watched as her husband tried his best to defend himself, but soon fell into a disadvantageous position. Her heart turned cold as she stood in front of Nia Qianyu with a dagger in her hand. Although the number of Jade Foundation Alliance members was small, those who remained were all elites. Even though Longting Manor and the others tried their best to kill them, they did not seem to have any significant effect. You, what are you doing? Nia Qianrong held the short sword in her hand as she stared at young Master Long, who was slowly walking towards her. Ha ha ha, what am I doing? What else can I do? I just want to bring my beautiful wife home. Young Master Long glanced around the battlefield as he sneered. I didn't expect Rejuvenation Valley's first miss and second miss to be as beautiful as flowers. This third miss just has to be a flower bud that hasn't bloomed yet. TSK, under my nourishment, I'm sure she'll be a great beauty in the future. As he spoke, young Master Long took a step forward and grabbed Nia Qianrong's chest. Nia Qianrong's face flushed red. She swung her short sword towards young Master Long. Young Master Long retracted his hand and raised the long sword in his right hand. Very exquisitely, he tapped on the short sword. With just a slight activation of the soaring dragon mantra, Nie Qianrong felt waves of boundless power surging from the short sword. She couldn't hold it in her hand, and the short sword flew diagonally out of the mountain. That wasn't all. Just as Nie Qianrong's gaze shifted to the flying short sword, young Master Long's left leg kicked Nie Qianrong's chest. With a pu sound, Nie Qianrong spat out a mouthful of blood. She was sent flying to the other side of the stone wall. Hee, first miss, although you're dignified and beautiful, you're still a withered flower. This young master doesn't care for you. It's better for you to hide to the side. Big sister, Nie Qianyu shouted and chased after Nie Qianrong. Little girl, let this young master see. How old are you? Young Master Long was obviously humiliated by Zhang Xiaohua in the past. Now that he had a chance to regain his face, he actually acted like a ruffian. He didn't restrain his words and didn't have the bearing of a young master. His hand actually grabbed Nie Qianyu's slightly protruding chest. Little Yu. Seeing that Nie Qianyu was about to be humiliated, Valley Master Nie, who had been paying attention to this scene, was furious. The sword in his hand was a little flustered. With a chi sound, Manor Master Long's long sword pierced Valley Master Nie's wrist. With a clang sound, Valley Master Nie's long sword fell to the ground. Valley Master Nie, you're too stingy. You're actually multitasking. Manor Master Long pointed his long sword at Valley Master Nie's throat and sneered. At this moment, how could Nie Qianyu escape from young Master Long's hands? How dare you? There was a clear roar, and a figure jumped out from behind Nie Qianyu. It was Little Orange, who had been hiding behind Nie Qianyu all this while and didn't dare to make a sound. She only jumped out when her young mistress was humiliated. Little thing. Young Master Long was furious. It seems that if I don't show you my power, you won't know how powerful my Tongue Long Villa is. Young Master Long threw his long sword away and grabbed Little Orange's left hand with his left hand. At the same time, his right hand moved forward and grabbed Little Orange's left arm. You. What are you doing? Little Orange shouted in panic. Young Master Long didn't answer. Instead, he glanced sideways at Nie Qianyu, who was also a little frightened. With a chi la sound, Little Orange's scream was heard. Little Orange's left arm was torn off by young Master Long. Little Orange. Nie Qianyu couldn't bear it anymore. She forgot to run to Nie Qianrong and turned back to run. Young Master Long's body was splashed with blood. With a hideous smile on his face, he opened his left hand and grabbed Nie Qianyu again. This time, he didn't grab her chest, but her throat. Little Yu, seeing that Nie Qianyu was about to fall into young Master Long's hands. Valley Master Nie ignored Manor Master Long's long sword and rushed over. At this moment, a roar that resounded through the 9 heavens came from the distant sky. Thief, how dare you? Before the voice died away, 8 rays of sword light fell from the sky like lightning. They didn't wait for anyone to react and shuttled through the crowd at lightning speed. The first ray of sword light flashed through young Master Long's throat with a poochie sound. With a slight trace of blood, the sword light turned and rushed into another group of people, cutting the throat of the disciple who injured Yu Zhonglin. Who young Master Long didn't move. His left hand was still stretched forward, but his head was slightly tilted as if he was looking for the person who scolded him. His right hand moved back, and was about to cover his throat. When he touched his wound and saw the trace of blood on his hand, he didn't know what was going on. With a plop sound, he fell to the ground with his eyes wide open. He died with grievances. Long. When Manor Master Long heard the scolding in the air, he felt a chill in his heart. He didn't expect things to turn out so quickly. When he saw young Master Long fall to the ground after being stabbed to death by the flying sword, he shouted. Just as he shouted, a ray of sword light appeared in front of him. Manor Master Long was shocked and raised his sword to block it. However, the sword light was invisible and couldn't be blocked at all. Before Manor Master Long could make any other plans, the sword light had already reached his throat. Manor Master Long felt a chill in his throat, and just as he touched his wound, he blacked out and fell to the ground. 8 streaks of sword light flashed with a cold glint, like a sickle used to harvest crops. Everywhere it passed, a life would be reaped. The man who was so arrogant earlier, and had killed many of the Jade Foundation Alliance's disciples, was now like a baby without any ability to move. He was easily killed on the spot. Little Orange. Nie Qianyu didn't notice what was happening. She only focused on the girl who grew up with her. Although she treated her as a sister, she had always been taken care of by her sister. Just now, she knew that nothing would happen to her, but she was afraid that Nie Qianyu would be humiliated and blocked in front of her. Little Orange's left arm was torn off and fresh blood covered the ground. Her face was extremely pale, and it was obvious that she wasn't going to live. Little girl, you get out of the way first. A somewhat familiar, yet somewhat unfamiliar voice rang out in the air. Big brother run? Nie Qianyu was overjoyed. When she turned her head, she saw a handsome young man dressed in a simple robe standing in the air outside Rejuvenation Valley's mountain peak. He was not very tall, but he was not very handsome. Nie Qianyu's face turned red and she felt sad. It wasn't her big brother Ren. Ah! Only then did Nie Qianyu see clearly that the person was floating in the air. Deity! This was the first thought that came to Nie Qianyu's mind. Then, her eyes lit up and she fell to the ground. She knocked her forehead on the mountain rock and cried, Granddad Deity, quick save Little Orange. The mountain rock on the mountain peak was very sharp. Nie Qianyu only knocked a few times and her forehead was bleeding. The person who appeared in the air was Zhang Xiaohua. He originally wanted to save Little Orange, but he didn't expect Nie Qianyu to treat him as Granddad Deity. Moreover, after knocking her head, he waved his hand and a force appeared out of nowhere. He lifted Nie Qianyu up and said, I don't know medicine, but there are a few pills here. Maybe they can save this little girl's life. As he spoke, he took out a jade bottle. With a wave of his hand, the jade bottle flew to Nie Qianyu. Nie Qianyu reached out to catch it and kowtowed again. Thank you, Granddad Deity. However, she couldn't continue kowtowing. At this moment, Zhang Xiaohua frowned and looked at the secret passage again. Chapter 968. Zhang Xiaohua came from Don't Worry City, and saw everything that happened on the mountain peak with her divine sense. However, she was still a little late and couldn't stop young Master Long's evil deeds. Therefore the 8 sword rays showed no mercy and killed all the disciples of Soaring Dragon Villa, Flying Fish Sect, Raging Wave Sect, and those who weren't part of the Jade Foundation Alliance. However, there were many disciples of Soaring Dragon Villa, and many of them were gathered at the side of the secret tunnel. When they saw the sudden change, they hurriedly rushed into the tunnel like a swarm of bees. Zhang Xiaohua killed all the leaders with her sword. Then she killed some of the lackeys. When she saw the Jade Foundation Alliance disciples chasing after her, she frowned and recalled her flying sword. The 8 sword rays flew back to Zhang Xiaohua's side like fish, and in a flash, they turned into one and circled around Zhang Xiaohua a few times before disappearing. Sword Immortal. When the Jade Foundation Alliance saw this, they were dumbfounded and thought of the legendary term. That's right, the mountain peak of Rejuvenation Valley was extremely high and this person could fly beyond the cliff. Moreover, she didn't even need to use her hands to execute sword techniques. That incomparably strange sword ray that even the eyes couldn't follow. Who else could it be but a sword immortal? Everyone was terrified and didn't know how to face this legendary immortal. When they saw Nie Qianyu kneeling down and begging for help, everyone came to their senses and hurriedly knelt down. Zhang Xiaohua's expression changed slightly. She flicked her sleeves and the people in front felt a surge of energy surging towards them. They couldn't kneel down. Zhang Xiaohua then said, I don't like conventional etiquette. Feel free to do as you wish. How could they dare to do as they wished? Although Zhang Xiaohua disguised herself as Panin and looked young, everyone knew that immortals could regain their youthful appearance. Perhaps this person before them was a few hundred years old. Therefore Valley Master Nie took a few steps forward and bowed deeply. He said respectfully, I am Commander Nie from Rejuvenation Valley. Greetings, Immortal Elder. Zhang Xiaohua nodded and said, That's easy. I have heard of Rejuvenation Valley's reputation before, and it has quite a clean reputation. And what exactly is going on? Then, Zhang Xiaohua looked at Nie Qianyu, who was holding the jade bottle, and said to Valley Head Nie, I've long heard of Rejuvenation Valley's amazing medical skills. Although I have some medicinal pills, I still have some ability to save a little girl. I'm afraid I can't satisfy this girl's request. Valley Master Nie said respectfully, It is already Little Orange's great fortune that Senior Immortal has bestowed the medicinal pill. How would my Rejuvenation Valley dare to ask Senior Immortal to help? It's just that my disciples have all died. If you want to save Little Orange, only I can do it. I'm afraid. I've neglected you, Senior Immortal. Zhang Xiaohua's expression changed. She scolded. A life is at stake. Although she is just a maidservant, she may have stood up to save her master. She has noble moral integrity. How can you delay the treatment for mundane matters? If Rejuvenation Valley is like this, I would have saved you in vain. Valley Head Nia's face was filled with shame. He bowed deeply again. Thank you, Senior Immortal, for your teachings. I'll do it right away. Although Little Orange's arm is broken, it hasn't been broken for long. With Rejuvenation Valley's medical skills, it should be able to be reconnected. With Senior Immortal's medicinal pill, it should be fine. Go, don't be noisy. Zhang Xiaohua was worried about Little Orange's life and was too lazy to be long-winded with him. Valley Head Nia didn't dare to delay. He turned to look at Si Yakong and Old Man Yu, and hurriedly led a few disciples to carry Little Orange down the mountain peak. Nia Qinyu was anxious and wanted to follow, but Valley Head Nia pushed her and gave her a look, telling her to stay where she was. Nia Qinyu knew her father's intentions, but she was really worried about Little Orange. Her gaze followed Little Orange's bloody body, until it could no longer be seen. At this time, Si Yakong stepped forward and saluted. I'm Si Yakong from Weapon Forging Sect. Greetings, Senior Immortal. You're from Weapon Forging Sect. Why are you in Rejuvenation Valley? Zhang Xiaohua asked even though she already knew the answer. Tell me the reason. Yes, Senior Immortal. Si Yakong was unusually respectful. He stood there and told her the whole story. After listening to the process of the matter, Zhang Xiaohua's expression changed slightly. Her heart was also in turmoil. What happened to Rejuvenation Valley was because of her. If she hadn't entered the fragrant religion, how could there be so many waves? Admittedly, in order to enter the fragrant religion, she had given Rejuvenation Valley many benefits and also taught them the 5 elements formation, which could be considered as helping Rejuvenation Valley defend against the enemy. However, if she hadn't entered the fragrant religion, there wouldn't have been so many effects. Mu Qingxian and Fei He also wouldn't have lost their lives. Thinking that Mu Qingxian, who once earnestly taught her, was no longer in this world, Zhang Xiaohua couldn't help but feel sad. After Si Yakong finished telling the story, he looked at Zhang Xiaohua, who was still floating in the air, with an apprehensive expression. These were all mundane matters of Jianghu. He didn't know if this Senior Immortal cared. Looking at her calm expression, perhaps she just treated it as a story. Because this was the first time they saw someone from the Immortal Tao, and because they didn't know her temperament, they were also shocked by Zhang Xiaohua's thunderous killing methods. Other than Si Yakong, who told the whole story, the rest of the people were silent and solemn. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Nia Qianrong, who had fainted by the stone wall, woke up with a groan, startling Zhang Xiaohua out of her reverie. Even Yu Zhonglin, who was lying at the side with serious injuries, woke up at this moment. He struggled to get over. Nia Qinyu had been standing quietly by the side, frowning as she looked at Zhang Xiaohua. She clearly knew that the person before her was an immortal. Although she looked young, she was definitely older than her grandfather. Moreover, her height was obviously different from that person. But why did she feel a sense of familiarity? Hearing Nia Qianrong's groan, Nia Qinyu seemed to wake up from a dream. However, she moved her body and stopped. She carefully looked at Zhang Xiaohua. When she saw Zhang Xiaohua nod, she hurriedly ran over. Big sister, as she spoke, she helped Nia Qianrong up, took out an elixir, and fed it to Nia Qianrong. At this moment, although the scene was still silent, everyone was relieved. Although they didn't know this Senior Immortal's temperament, based on his actions just now he should be kind. Or rather, he was kind to the people of the Jade Foundation Alliance. Sigh. After a while Zhang Xiaohua sighed. The grudges of the pugilistic world aren't something that I can meddle in. But I happened to pass by here, and saw that this girl's bones were very good. Perhaps fate has brought us together, so I made an exception and wanted to take this girl as my disciple. As Zhang Xiaohua spoke, she pointed at Nie Qianyu. Instantly, the eyes of the people of the Jade Foundation Alliance flashed with eagerness. Becoming a senior immortal's disciple, that was something that they had never even dreamed of. Moreover, he was the one who offered himself to be their disciple. This was a rare opportunity. Although Nie Qianyu wasn't their disciple, she was still a member of the Jade Foundation Alliance. Everyone knew that when a man achieves the Tao, even his chickens and dogs can ascend to the heavens. With a senior immortal as her backing, who in the pugilistic world would dare to bully her? This was so much more powerful than the incense cult. Everyone wanted to reach out a third hand from their eyes and grab Nie Qianyu, forcing her to kowtow to him immediately. However, an unexpected answer came out of Nie Qianyu's mouth. Senior Immortal, I appreciate your kindness, but I've already become a disciple of the Beta School. Although I haven't officially taken you as my disciple, I've already cultivated the internal cultivation techniques of the Beta School. If I don't get the approval of the Beta School and become your disciple, wouldn't I? Everyone was shocked and their expressions changed. Putting aside the fact that Nie Qianyu had rejected such a great opportunity, even going against the senior immortal's wishes was a huge risk. If the senior immortal got angry, no one dared to think about it. Zhang Xiaohua frowned as well. He had personally taught the first level of the Carefree Heart Sutra to Nie Qianyu, so he naturally knew about this. However, he wanted to take Nie Qianyu as his disciple because he wanted to find a reason to help her. Even if Nie Qianyu had countless reasons, he would have countless ways to deal with it. Nie Qianyu said this, but she was also nervous. Looking at Zhang Xiaohua's solemn expression, she didn't know whether this was a blessing or a curse. Beta School? Zhang Xiaohua pretended not to know and asked curiously. What school is that? I've never heard of it. However, you only learned the chant and didn't take anyone as your disciple, so you can't be considered a disciple of Beta School? Although I haven't taken anyone as my disciple, but I've long considered Beta School as my master. Haha, good girl, good disciple, whatever. Everyone felt extremely regretful. This was a great opportunity to become an immortal, and it was wasted just like that. Zhang Xiaohua changed the topic and said, I'll temporarily take you as a registered disciple. If the elders of Beta School don't agree, then forget about it. As she spoke, she took out an item from her pocket. With a stretch of her hand, the item flew to Nie Qianyu's eyes. This is a jade talisman for communication. If Beta School replies, crush it and I will know. This is fate for I to meet you. Everyone was shocked again. Of course, Immortal Elder's jade talisman had a profound meaning. It was simply a life-saving talisman. Further down the line was Rejuvenation Valley, the life-saving talisman of Yuli Alliance. Whether it was useful or not aside, with this item, who would dare to touch Rejuvenation Valley? How could Nie Qianyu not understand? She reached out to take it and bowed to thank her. Thank you for your kindness, Immortal Elder. Before Nie Qianyu could finish, Zhang Xiaohua waved her hand and said, Don't thank me, don't thank me. I'm leaving. As she spoke, she headed in the direction of Don't Worry City, disappearing in an instant. Farewell, Immortal Elder. On the mountain peak, everyone bowed and called out. Even when Zhang Xiaohua was gone, they didn't dare to stand up. We can't do as we please in the Jianghu. Although Mu Qingxian and Fei He are in Rejuvenation Valley, taking care of the herbs and managing Qihuang, their lives are still in danger. Second brother is now the head disciple of Ethereal Hall, which is even more dangerous. With Incense Sect open, won't Abbess Jingyi care more about Ethereal Hall? Since we're already in the Jianghu, perhaps we can only cultivate our martial arts to the peak to have the ability to protect ourselves. The Immortal Tao. The Qi of heaven and earth is gradually recovering. The Immortal Tao will be the main character in the future. The martial Tao may gradually decline. It's better to find an opportunity to see if second brother has any immortal fate. Chapter 969. After Zhang Xiaohua left Rejuvenation Valley, she saw the disciples of the Jade Foundation Alliance chasing after the disciples of the Soaring Dragon Mountain Villa. The disciples of the Soaring Dragon Mountain Villa fled pathetically, not daring to fight back. She couldn't help but think of drawing Zhang Xiaohua into the path of immortality. Immortal fate? In the eyes of others, it might be an indiscernible thing, but what about me? Zhang Xiaohua was a little proud. Although the qi of heaven and earth was recovering and not enough for cultivation, she had already learned the spirit gathering array in the jade mine under 9 Radiance Peak. Moreover, the 5-colored jade essence was the essence of the 5 elemental jade. In time, Zhang Xiaohua would definitely be able to use this jade essence to set up a true 5 elemental spirit gathering array. The problem of the qi of heaven and earth needed for cultivation should be solved. The only thing left was Zhang Xiaohua's aptitude. This wasn't something Zhang Xiaohua could help with. Zhang Xiaohua concealed herself and flew to a secluded corner of Sorrow City. She revealed herself and released her divine sense, wanting to find Meng's location. However, after searching for a long time, she still couldn't find her. Strange? Did something happen? Zhang Xiaohua was a little anxious. However, she thought again. If something had happened, her divine sense would be able to find traces as well. She must have entered some kind of restriction that concealed her tracks. Then she thought about the methods of the incense cult. Zhang Xiaohua felt relieved. She strolled to a tea house and sat at the side, slowly sipping her tea. News spread quickly in the tea house. In less than half a day, the Soaring Dragon Mountain Villa attacked Rejuvenation Valley. Rejuvenation Valley retreated to the top of the mountain in defeat. Just as Rejuvenation Valley was about to be exterminated, another immortal appeared and killed everyone from the Soaring Dragon Mountain Villa. There were even rumors that the immortal was more than 50 feet tall, had white hair and a youthful face. He even held a walking stick in his hand. With a wave of his walking stick, there was the sound of thunder and lightning, killing everyone from the Soaring Dragon Mountain Villa, while leaving those from Rejuvenation Valley unharmed. You don't know this, but that immortal was standing hundreds of meters in the air. His body was glowing with multicolored light, and everyone on the mountain peak was kneeling down. When that immortal waved his hand, everyone involuntarily stood up. That's right, Valley Head Nya of Rejuvenation Valley has always been benevolent. The immortal said that he came down from the heavens to help because he's usually a good person. What do you know? That's the Immortal Dao. Immortal Dao? More powerful than martial arts? I heard about it from Grandmaster. Say, when that immortal waved his walking stick, could the internal energy in his meridians fly out? Kill him? It's not internal energy, it's flying swords. I heard that when the immortal waved his hand, thousands of flying swords flew out of his sleeves and chopped Manor Lord Long and the others into minced meat. Listening to the rumors in the tea house, Zhang Xiaohua couldn't help but shake her head slightly, and a bitter smile appeared on her face. Rumors stopped with the wise. Perhaps it should be so, but could the rumors stop? Perhaps it was Rejuvenation Valley's intention, or perhaps it was the boredom of bored people. It wouldn't be long before this rumor spread throughout the pugilistic world. But thinking of the consequences she brought to Rejuvenation Valley, Zhang Xiaohua didn't want to correct anything. Perhaps this was also a kind of protection she brought to Rejuvenation Valley. There were more and more people in the tea house, and all of them were glowing with excitement. As soon as they entered, they opened their mouths and told her what they knew had happened in Rejuvenation Valley. Seeing that the tea house was even noisier than the restaurant, Zhang Xiaohua frowned slightly. Suddenly, her mind stirred, and she released her divine sense. She saw Meng appear beside Carefree Lake, and she was still dressed in her original attire. Looking at the sky, Zhang Xiaohua went down the tea house and headed straight for the Moon Elder Temple in the west of the city. The Moon Elder Temple was still cold and cheerless. Zhang Xiaohua sat on the back of the 4 odd beasts and watched from afar. She didn't push open the door and enter. When she saw the smiling Moon Elder in her divine sense, she thought of Meng and felt a trace of sweetness. It was a pity that although her divine sense was strong, she couldn't see if the 2 people's feet were tied with the same red thread. Just as she was thinking, Meng appeared in her vision riding a white horse. Zhang Xiaohua patted Huan Huan's bald horn and said with a smile, "Is everything settled?" And yes, Meng smiled and then hesitated. But on the way to, I heard someone talking about Rejuvenation Valley. I don't know how it is now. Zhang Xiaohua nodded and said, I also heard about it. But now, things have taken a turn for the better. Turn for the better? Meng was a little puzzled. Could it be that Chenglongting Manor has been withdrawn? You didn't hear any other rumors after you finished your business? Other rumors? What do you mean? Meng was a little puzzled and said with a slightly red face. I finished my business and was in a hurry. I came to the Moon Elder Temple and didn't hear anything. Zhang Xiaohua's heart warmed. She said gently, I heard in the tea house that someone from the immortal Dao came to the rescue and killed the people of Chenglongting Manor. Now that Rejuvenation Valley is very safe, there shouldn't be anyone in the Jianghu who would rashly invade. Someone from the immortal Dao? Meng was shocked. Who is that? How would I know? Zhang Xiaohua shrugged. There are all kinds of rumors in the tea house. I don't know either, Meng said. Then should we go to Rejuvenation Valley first? Sai, I don't know either. Since we're already here, we should go and take a look. But the root of the matter in Rejuvenation Valley is still with me. I'm a little embarrassed to go. Moreover, we're going to the Dalan Temple with a heavy responsibility. We can't leak the news of the incense cult opening. I'm afraid that the cult won't be able to make proper preparations. If we go to Rejuvenation Valley, won't everything be leaked? Meng pursed her lips and smiled. Then when you came out, did the cult leader tell you not to go to Rejuvenation Valley? Zhang Xiaohua scratched her head and said, Of course the cult leader didn't say that. That's right, Meng said. In the cult leader's eyes, the matter in Rejuvenation Valley is really insignificant. The punishment that day was only because Rejuvenation Valley agreed on the surface, but disobeyed in secret. Otherwise, the cult leader would have absolutely ignored it. Since I came to Sorrow City, you must follow. The cult leader must have thought that you would go to Rejuvenation Valley, but she still didn't say anything. Firstly, she didn't take it seriously. Secondly, she didn't care about whether you went or not. As for your whereabouts being leaked, that's even less of a consideration. You're just a nobody in the Jianghu. Who would know who you are? Heh. Even if you made a name for yourself in Rejuvenation Valley's arena, who would remember you now? You and I entered the valley at night and warned them repeatedly. Do you think the people of Rejuvenation Valley would dare to spread the word? Even if they made a connection with someone from the immortal Dao. Our incense cult is a great sect of the immortal Dao. Rejuvenation Valley will probably have to rely on our incense cult in the future. They definitely won't place their hopes on an illusory person from the immortal Dao. Zhang Xiaohua pondered for a moment and nodded. You're right. I originally thought too lightly. The grace of a drop of water must be repaid with a gushing spring. I still have to go. However, Zhang Xiaohua changed the topic. Nye Qinyu and I really biffed. Meng laughed out loud when she saw Zhang Xiaohua's cautious appearance. She pinched Zhang Xiaohua's hand and said, I've already said it no less than 100 times. If you don't have a guilty conscience, why are you nagging here? Haha, I actually want to see this little girl. Night quickly arrived. The entire Rejuvenation Villa was shrouded in darkness. The walls surrounding the villa had long been removed. Now, only a few idle disciples were patrolling around. Presumably, even they themselves knew that the appearance of someone from the immortal Dao during the day had already shocked the Jianghu. Even those who coveted Rejuvenation Valley couldn't reach out to Rejuvenation Valley at this time. Say, do you think our third miss has a screw loose? A disciple looked at the lights of 100 Herb Hall in the distance and said in a low voice. The immortal elder wanted to take her as a disciple, but she actually refused. She wants to be a disciple of some Beidou school. She'll lower your voice. Another disciple said. Our Rejuvenation Valley managed to escape with our lives. Isn't it all thanks to the third miss? It's not that I don't appreciate the third miss, but I just don't understand. If you don't understand, then don't think about it. The immortal elder didn't take a fancy to you. The disciple said disdainfully. Besides, according to the immortal elder, there will still be opportunities in the future. As long as the people of Beidou School agree, the third miss can still become an immortal. Also, don't you think that Beidou School isn't normal? Yeah, now that you mention it, I kind of understand. You should have known long ago. The third miss set up some kind of formation outside the villa. I heard. It was taught by Ren Xiaoxia, who used to be here. Yeah, if it weren't for that formation, you and I might have died in the hands of the enemy long ago at this moment. A woman's voice came from the forest not far away. She said in a low voice, Xiaohua, what formation? Haha, it's nothing much. It's just a strange formation I learned in the past. I used it to exchange for Rejuvenation Valley's pill formula. And a book from the Jade Foundation Alliance's weapon forging sect. Where did you learn it from? Can you keep it a secret for now? Let's go out now. I'll tell you when I have the chance in the future. Remember to tell me in the future. Sure, of course. With that, the two of them drifted away like the autumn wind, drifting through the silent night sky. They went straight into Rejuvenation Mountain Villa without attracting the slightest bit of attention from the patrolling disciples. At this moment, 100 Herb Hall was also filled with people. The atmosphere couldn't be described as festive or gloomy. It was just quiet, and no one spoke. Two people were kneeling in 100 Herb Hall. One was Nie Qianxiu, and the other was, of course, Changsheng. Father, I did it for Rejuvenation Valley out of goodwill. Don't you know? Longting Mountain Villa allied with a group of sects to take over Rejuvenation Valley's foundation. I had no choice. I knew that I couldn't fight them head-on, so I discussed with Changsheng. Rather than letting Frozen Ice Garden take advantage of us, it's better to let the Whale Gang. No matter what, we're still family. Family? Valley Master Nia was furious. Since we're family, how could you lead a wolf into the house? If you hadn't broken the formation and led Longting Mountain Villa's people to the mountain peak, I wouldn't have been able to escape from Rejuvenation Valley. Father, the people outside the valley are all from the Longting Villa. Where are you going to escape to? Among the conditions that I discussed with them, there was a condition that they couldn't harm father and little sister. Chapter 970. Then as her father, I have to thank you. Valley Head Nia's face was full of mockery. Didn't you see that young Master Long's appearance? He didn't plan on taking your little sister's life, Valley Head Nia couldn't continue. He tore off Little Orange's arm in front of Little You. Wasn't that a direct threat? If it weren't for the fact that an immortal elder passed by today and was fated with Little You, not only would Little Orange's life have been lost, but Little You and I, even if our lives were saved, we would still be humiliated. Father Nie Qianxiu begged. Soaring Dragon Villa, Flying Fish Gang, and even the disciples of my Whale Gang were all killed. Right now, the Whale Gang has no leader. If Changsheng and I don't return, then our ancestors' foundation will be taken over by others for nothing. Father, if you let us live, Changsheng and I will definitely merge the Whale Gang into Rejuvenation Valley. What do you think? I'm already old, and I don't have much ambition. I'm already satisfied to be able to protect Rejuvenation Valley. Why would I covet anything else? Valley Head Nia sneered. Moreover, you're the daughter-in-law of the Whale Gang. You led your Whale Gang disciples into Rejuvenation Valley. Right now is the time to punish you for your crimes. What's the point of saying all this? Father Nie Qianxiu wailed. Father, I've said so much to you. Isn't it because I want you to know my difficulties? You don't know how great the power of that Longting Villa is, and how powerful the master behind them is. Daughter's actions are also to find a bright way out for Rejuvenation Valley. After all, without the protection of the fragrant cult, who knows how many rascals in the pugilistic world are eyeing our Rejuvenation Valley? If I can clear the path of the master of Soaring Dragon Villa, then I can protect Rejuvenation Valley. I won't let down Father's decades of kindness in raising me. Nie Qianxiu's words were sincere, and tears flowed freely. It was as if she was going to dig out her heart for Valley Head Nie to see. Valley Master Nie sighed and said to Si Yakong, Big Brother Si, you're the boss of the Jade Foundation Alliance. This you should make the decision. I Si Yakong also sighed. He had watched the three sisters of the Nie family grow up. Based on Nie Qianxiu's crime, even if she was executed on the spot, it was only right. But this was Rejuvenation Valley after all, Commander Nie's place. At this moment, Si Yakong was almost complaining to the immortal elder. Why don't you just casually stretch out your hand and kill these two people? Wouldn't everything be over? Second brother Nia. This Si Yakong shook his head slightly. The people of the Jade Foundation Alliance are all here to help Rejuvenation Valley. Of course, Rejuvenation Valley should be the leader. Qianxiu is your daughter. You should decide for yourself. Valley Master Nia looked up. Zhou Xiqing, Zhenxian, and the others all lowered their eyebrows and didn't say anything. Valley Master Nia was truly in a difficult position. He unconsciously raised his eyes to look at Old Man Yu of Deer Cry Sect. Old Man Yu was originally lowering his head, but when he felt Valley Master Nia's gaze, he sighed in his heart and raised his head. Brother Nia, I have something to say, but I don't know if I should. Valley Master Nia was overjoyed. Brother Yu, please speak. From what I heard from Qianxiu, although there were many fallacies in her words, they were filled with the intention of protecting Rejuvenation Valley. Perhaps she fell into the enemy's trap, and her kindness was taken advantage of? Valley Master Nia pondered for a moment, then said, Brother Yu's words make sense. Moreover, after this battle, the Whale Gang is no longer a force to be reckoned with. It's not that I'm exaggerating, but by the time the sun rises tomorrow, someone might have already swallowed up the Whale Gang. Even if they return strong and powerful now, it's useless. Our Jade Foundation Alliance can forget about meddling in their affairs. Of course, I'm not saying this to side with Qianxiu. After all, she made a mistake by opening the formation and sending the enemy into the secret passage. She can't shirk her responsibility. So since the immortal elder on the mountain peak didn't kill her with his sword, we as her elders shouldn't be too ruthless. When Nye Qianxiu heard this, she was overjoyed. Thank you, Uncle Yu. You don't have to thank me. As the saying goes, the death penalty can be avoided, but the punishment cannot be avoided. What I mean is, to cripple their martial arts and imprison them in the valley. Ah? Nye Qianxiu was shocked. She turned around and begged. Father, please be merciful. If you cripple my martial arts, won't I be powerless? This can't be done. When Valley Master Nia looked at Elder Yu again, he had already returned to his chair and was silent. Valley Master Nia knew that there was no other way out now. He could only wave his hand and say, Take them away and break their dantian, Father Nye Qianxiu begged. Chang Sheng's face was ashen. Wait. A voice sounded from outside the door. It sounded familiar. Who is it? Valley Master Nia was shocked. When he looked up and saw Zhang Xiaohua and Meng slowly walking in from the door, he couldn't help but be stunned. Is it Nephew Ren? Valley Master Nia asked in disbelief. Haha, it is me. How is Uncle Nia? Seeing that it was Zhang Xiaohua, everyone in the hall stood up and looked at Zhang Xiaohua and Meng in surprise. Nephew Ren, didn't you go to the Fragrant Religion? How can you appear here? Could it be you didn't enter the Fragrant Religion? This lady, who is she? Valley Master Nia asked several questions in a row. Zhang Xiaohua said with a smile, I will answer these questions later. Now I would like to ask Valley Master Nia, can you lend me these two people for a while? Valley Master Nia frowned and said, Nephew Ren, what is the matter? Please tell me clearly in person. Zhang Xiaohua said awkwardly. This after thinking for a while he said, Uncle Nia, please know that this nephew is now a protector of the Fragrant Religion. This young lady is an inner sect disciple of the Fragrant Religion's Fragrant Peak. Just now, I heard the two of them talking about a master. This master has some grudges with the Fragrant Religion. This nephew wants to know from their mouths who this master is. You are Fragrant Religion? Protector disciple? She is an inner disciple of the Fragrant Religion? With Master Kong and the others. Valley Master Nia is right. I am Senior Peacock's junior sister. Meng said coldly, then took out a token from her chest and said, I wonder if Valley Master Nia wants to check? This Valley Master Nia hesitated. Then he seemed to think of something and shook his head. How can Rejuvenation Valley compare to an inner disciple of the Fragrant Religion? Naturally, I don't dare to verify your authenticity. However, if the Fragrant Religion doesn't protect Rejuvenation Valley for 10 years, this Qianxiu and Changsheng can't be questioned in private. Of course, if Nephew Ren has any questions, it is better to ask them in person. Zhang Xiaohua smiled bitterly and shook her head. Since Uncle Nia has such thoughts, then forget it. Good, take these two people away. Come and find a seat for nephew Ren and this lady. When the two were seated, Valley Master Nia invited them to drink tea and asked, there is still a year before the fragrant religion leaves Jianghu. Why did nephew Ren come out? Could it be? Zhang Xiaohua looked at Meng and turned to Valley Master Nia with a smile. Uncle Nia, how I came out is a secret of the fragrant religion. Moreover, the reason why I came here at night is because I considered that this matter is very important and cannot be leaked. Therefore, I cannot tell you for the time being. Also, I ask Uncle Nia and everyone here to keep my whereabouts a secret. If anything is leaked, I don't need to tell you the consequences. I'm sure all the uncles here know. Valley Master Nia looked at everyone with a slight change in expression. Since nephew Ren's whereabouts are a secret, why Valley Master Nia was very puzzled. Haha, Zhang Xiaohua stood up, bowed to the ground and said, because I came to Sorrow City because I heard about Rejuvenation Valley being surrounded by Longting Villa. I also know about the punishment that the hierarch has given to Rejuvenation Valley. Furthermore, this punishment was caused by this nephew. Therefore, this nephew has no choice but to come and explain the reason behind this. You? It's really you? Valley Master Nia was angry. He had some suspicions earlier. Now that he heard that Zhang Xiaohua had become some guardian disciple, and even went in and out with the inner disciples, how could he not vaguely know? But when he heard Zhang Xiaohua say it personally, how could he not be angry when he thought about Rejuvenation Valley's current miserable state? However, when he thought about the method of refining pills, the wonders of the 5 elements formation and Zhang Xiaohua's current identity, Valley Master Nia's heart was filled with mixed feelings. Alas! He let out a long sigh and waved his hand. Ren Xiaoxia, things have already come to this. Even if I blame you, what's the use? The matter of going to the fragrant religion was also brought up by me. Sending you to the fragrant religion was also agreed by me. You have also given Rejuvenation Valley a lot of benefits. When all these things are tangled together, I can't explain why. Since Ren Xiaoxia has now made a name for himself in the fragrant religion, I hope that you will take care of Rejuvenation Valley in the future. Valley Master Nia. Zhang Xiaohua changed her words. No matter what, this disaster was caused by me. If not for the appearance of the people from the immortal Dao today, my sin would be great. I have nothing to compensate. These few bottles of pills are from the fragrant religion. I hope that Valley Master Nia will accept them as my apology, Big Brother Ren? Is that you? A timid voice sounded from behind Valley Master Nia. Nia Xiaoyu? Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, it's me. Are you well? A petite figure flashed out from behind Valley Master Nia and quickly ran in front of Zhang Xiaohua. However, when she saw Meng beside Zhang Xiaohua, she couldn't help but be stunned. A woman's intuition flashed through her, and she immediately stopped. She was somewhat vigilant as she asked, this young lady is? Xiaoyu. Valley Master Nia scolded. This is the inner sect master of the fragrant religion. Don't be rude. Ah. Nia Qinyu was shocked and hurriedly bowed. Nia Qinyu of Rejuvenation Valley greets. Master. Meng pursed her lips and smiled. She walked forward and held Nia Qinyu's hands. Don't be so polite, Nia Xiuyu. My name is Zixia, a disciple of Mo Naigong. On Lingering Fragrance Peak, Ren Xiaoyao talked a lot about you. When these words stopped in Nia Qinyu's ears, it was like thunder in the night sky. It shocked her so much that her face turned pale. Chapter 971. How would Nia Qinyu know what a disciple of Lingering Fragrance Peak was? She was only thinking about what Meng said just now. On Lingering Fragrance Peak, Ren Xiaoyao talked a lot about you. Suddenly, Nia Qinyu's face turned pale and tears welled up in her eyes. She bowed again and said, Greetings, Lord Zixia. I said you're welcome. I mean it. Meng said with a smile. Little you, these are the pills that Ren Xiaoxia took out. He said it was compensation for Rejuvenation Valley. Ren Xiaoxia has just admitted that the leader of Lingering Fragrance sect blamed Rejuvenation Valley because of him. This disaster was caused by him. Father. Even if it's because of Big Brother Ren, He also left behind a formation to help us defend against the enemy. Moreover, because of this matter, all the sects in the pugilistic world that coveted our Rejuvenation Valley were wiped out in one fell swoop. In the future, no one will dare to underestimate our Rejuvenation Valley. Nie Qianyu glanced at her dream and continued to defend Zhang Xiaohua. Little you. Valley Master Nie was a little unhappy. Nie Qianyu, you should accept it. Rejuvenation Valley suffered heavy casualties because of me. If you can accept these, I'll feel better. Zhang Xiaohua said. Take it, Nie Qianyu. These are healing pills from Lingering Fragrance sect. If anyone in Rejuvenation Valley is injured, taking one will be extremely effective. Meng also advised. Thinking of Nie Qianrong and Yu Zhonglin's injuries, Nie Qianyu's heart moved slightly. She nodded and said, Then, I'll accept it. Zhang Xiaohua nodded with a smile. Then she said, The matter has been explained. I have something important to do, so I'll take my leave. Please keep the matter of my arrival a secret for me. Okay, I understand. Valley Master Nie stood up and said. Everyone also stood up. Zhang Xiaohua cupped her hands and was about to leave. At this time, Si Yakong pulled Zhang Xiaohua and whispered, Ren Xiaoxia, I don't know if I should say something. Zhang Xiaohua was stunned. Please enlighten me, Sect Master Si. Yes. Si Yakong looked at everyone and pulled Zhang Xiaohua to the side. He said in a low voice, That the heavenly book that I gave to Ren Xiaoxia to comprehend. Cough, cough. I wonder if Ren Xiaoxia brought it back to Beta School? Zhang Xiaohua frowned and said, Not yet. Headmaster Si knows that this is the first time I've left the School of Fragrance. I haven't returned to Beta School yet. I see. I'm sure Xiaoxia hasn't comprehended the secrets of the heavenly book yet. Zhang Xiaohua was about to speak, but Si Yakong didn't give her a chance. He smiled and said, Of course, it's a bit difficult for me to bring it up now. Although I had an agreement with Xiaoxia before, but my sect has a senior. Cough, cough, he seems to be able to decipher this heavenly book. So when Zhang Xiaohua heard this, her expression became very strange. She asked, Sect Master Si, you mean yes, it's a bit embarrassing to take the heavenly book back from Xiaoxia now, but this heavenly book is related to the future of our weapon forging sect. As long as there's a glimmer of hope, I want to give it a try, ha. Zhang Xiaohua laughed and said, I thought it was something else. It's okay, Sect Master Si. Since you have a better solution, I will definitely support you. However, the heavenly book is in my mount's bag. Please wait a moment. Zhang Xiaohua went out and returned in the time it took to smoke a cigarette. She returned Si Yakong's wordless heavenly book intact. Si Yakong flipped it over and over again. When he saw that it was exactly the same as when he gave it to him, he carefully put it in his pocket and cupped his hands. Many thanks to Ren Xiaoxia for your kindness. Zhang Xiaohua also laughed and said, You're too kind. I still have to thank Sect Master Si. Si Yakong didn't understand. Zhang Xiaohua also didn't explain and left 100 Herb Hall. In the shadows outside 100 Herb Hall, Valley Master Nie and Nie Qianyu were accompanying Meng as they waited for Zhang Xiaohua. When he saw Zhang Xiaohua come over, Valley Master Nie whispered, Ren Xiaoxia, I also have something to tell Ren Xiaoxia. Zhang Xiaohua was even more curious. Valley Master Nie, why didn't you say anything earlier? Valley Master Nie glanced at Nie Qianyu and told her about how the immortal elder asked Nie Qianyu to become his disciple. He then laughed and said, I know. Of course, it was just a joke that you accepted Little You as your disciple on behalf of your sect's elder. Although you taught Little You some formations, it wasn't an internal cultivation technique. Also, I don't think you've returned to your sect. I think Valley Master Nie means to pretend that I didn't say anything? Or, when I return to the sect, I don't need to mention it to the sect's elders and head. Zhang Xiaohua said calmly. Father, Nie Qianyu said, I've already told you that I'm a disciple of Beta School. Shut up. Valley Master Nie scolded. You're still young. How would you know the pros and cons? Listen to your father, it's definitely not wrong. Hee, Zhang Xiaohua laughed. Valley Master Nie, whether she wants to become my disciple or not is up to Miss Nie. If she doesn't want to become my Beta School's disciple, how can I force her to become my disciple? Even the immortal elder you mentioned didn't force her to become his disciple. So all the initiative is in Miss Nie's hands. I already understand Valley Master Nie's meaning. Before Miss Nie tells me that she wants to become my disciple, I definitely won't tell my sex elders in advance. Of course, if Miss Nie doesn't want to become my disciple, then don't practice the cultivation technique that I taught. Big brother Ren Nie Qianyu felt bitter in her heart. All right, I've finished my business here. Goodbye. Zhang Xiaohua cupped his hands and pulled Meng along with him as he left using his lightness skill. Nie Qianyu felt as if a knife was being twisted in her heart when she saw Zhang Xiaohua holding Meng's hand. Zhang Xiaohua and Meng left Rejuvenation Valley. Zhang Xiaohua looked around and saw that there was no one around. She whispered, Meng, wait here for a while. I'll be back soon. What are you doing? Meng whispered. Don't tell me you're going to meet Nie Qianyu behind my back. Forget it. Do I need to do that? Zhang Xiaohua had an indescribable feeling in her heart. She said, didn't you hear Nie Qianyu's second sister talking about some master? This is a big fish. No matter what, we have to see if we can find any clues. I'm fine with it, but if you can find out who's behind all this, wouldn't it be a great merit? Meng laughed. Aren't you worried about Nie Qianyu? You want to borrow the sect leader's hand to get rid of this person? I'm not thinking that much. Zhang Xiaohua looked around. Forget it. Even if what you say makes sense, the atmosphere in the incense sect has been so foul because of these people that they even dared to make a move on Grand Elder Jinggang and the others. If you really can find the culprit behind this, perhaps Rejuvenation Valley's punishment will be reduced. Maybe Rejuvenation Valley doesn't care about this punishment anymore. Meng said with a meaningful smile. All right, then I'll go now. You aren't coming with me? No. You're familiar with this place. It's better if you go early and return early. Meng shook her head. Zhang Xiaohua leaped into the air and slipped into the darkness of the forest. She entered Rejuvenation Valley, like a wisp of smoke. When did Xiaohua's lightness skill become so good? Meng was stunned. Zhang Xiaohua released her divine sense and easily found Changsheng and Nie Qianxiu's location. The two of them were in a secluded hut by a pea oil lamp. Their faces were filled with dejection and disappointment. They appeared to be in a sorry state. Outside the hut, several Rejuvenation Valley disciples were patrolling the area with weapons in their hands. Zhang Xiaohua entered the hut. Before the two of them could react, she sealed their acupoints in the air. Then, she walked in front of them and stretched out her finger to seal the acupoint on Nie Qianxiu's head. It was the bewitching finger. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, Zhang Xiaohua appeared under a big tree outside the hut. Her face was filled with disappointment. It was obvious that she hadn't gained anything. She was about to leave the valley, but when she used her divine sense, she had a strange expression. She formed an incantation gesture and entered the ground. However, the direction she went wasn't outside the mountain villa. In the peach blossom forest of Rejuvenation Valley, the peach blossoms had already turned into fallen petals. At this moment, they had turned into spring mud and nourished the peach trees. In the dark night, under the full moon, a slender figure knelt in the peach blossom forest. She put her palms together and muttered, "Mother, I really can't tell if I like it or if I'm in pain. Today, I unexpectedly saw Big Brother Ren. I'm so happy that I'm even happier than when I saw the immortal earlier. However, Mother, Big Brother Ren didn't come alone this time. There's a girl called Zixia with him. She's an inner disciple of the fragrant sect. She looks very kind and treats me very well. She's even more kind than the previous inner disciples, but I know that she's here because of Big Brother Ren. Actually, I quite like Lord Zixia from the bottom of my heart. But when I saw her standing together with Big Brother Ren, my heart began to ache. Moreover, when I saw Big Brother Ren holding her hand, my heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. Mother, I know that I'm in the wrong. Big Brother Ren, he didn't say anything to me before. I'm definitely not worthy of him. Now he's seen the person he likes. I should smile and give him my blessings. But I really can't do it. Mother, I can't do it. Nie Qianyu choked with sobs and covered her face with her hands. Mother, Just now father told me that although Big Brother Run has done a favor for the fragrant sect, he's also brought us trouble this time. Let's call it even and don't have any more dealings with him. Although he's a guardian disciple of the fragrant sect, but our Rejuvenation Valley has the Immortal as our backer. In the future, we don't have to give face to the fragrant sect. But mother, if I crush that jade talisman, although I can follow the Immortal to practice the way of immortality, but in the future, how can I meet Big Brother Ren? I'd rather follow Big Brother Ren to practice that obscure mental cultivation method than to learn the Immortal's cultivation method. Mother, I've also told you before. Every time I practice that mental cultivation method, although Big Brother Ren isn't around, but I feel that Big Brother Ren is beside me and even watching me. This way, I'll have the energy to practice it, but, Father, the Rejuvenation Valley has become like this. If we don't have the Immortal's support, I'm afraid. Sigh, Mother, I know Father's difficulties, but Mother, tell me, what should I do? In the distance, on top of a tall peach tree, a slender figure stood. He stared in a daze and listened in a daze. It was as if he had long been dumbfounded. Chapter 972. As the night deepened and Ming grew anxious, Zhang Xiaohua came out of Rejuvenation Valley. Her brows were slightly furrowed, as if she had something on her mind. Ming whispered, "What's wrong? You didn't find Nie Qianxiu? Let's go. It's getting late. Let's talk as we walk." The two of them used their lightness skills and rushed to Val City. On the way, Zhang Xiaohua said, "We did find Nie Qianxiu and Changsheng, but they were fooled and used as pawns. How could they know anything about the Lord? She only saw Manor Lord Long, and that so-called person sent by His Highness. That person seemed to have inconceivable skills and promised to hand over Rejuvenation Valley to her after taking it down. That's why she was blinded by greed, and used the trick of injuring herself to become a spy. What about the person sent by the Lord? He was killed by that mysterious immortal on the mountain peak this morning. Well, this is great. We worked for nothing." Well, it's not like we worked for nothing. Nie Qianxiu also said that she vaguely heard Manor Lord Long mention something called Shui Yun. It seems to be a place where the Lord is. It's in the northeast of Val City. As for the specific location, we'll have to ask carefully. It's a place called Shui Yun in the northeast of Val City. It's easy to find out. When we arrive at Val City, we'll send a message to the outer disciples of Incense Cult and have them investigate. On the one hand, we'll let them investigate. On the other hand, we'll have to secretly keep an eye on this so-called Lord. I'm afraid that ordinary outer disciples won't be able to find out. That's reasonable. But our main task is to send the invitation card back to Lingering Fragrance Peak and have Marshal Uncle Shuezhen busy. We'll do as you say. I'll leave this task to you. You can't do it? Of course I can't. I don't know where the disciples of Incense Cult are in Val City. Zhang Xiaohua said with conviction. You win. Meng glared at him. At the same time, in the northwest direction of Worry City, there was a continuous stretch of lakes of various sizes that were connected to each other. In the middle of the large lake, there were several large docks that were also connected together. They were brightly lit, illuminating this area of water. Not far away, the reeds and other things that were exposed on the surface of the water could be seen clearly. On the dock, in a magnificent hall, Peng Yeyu, whom Zhang Xiaohua had seen earlier, was sitting in the seat of honor. Accompanying him was an old man who looked very similar to Huang Chang. The old man raised his cup and said with a smile, "Young Master Peng, you've been in my Falling Star Alliance for quite some time. Are you satisfied with us?" Peng Yeyu raised his cup and smiled gracefully. Of course, Chief Huang's hospitality is perfect. How could I not be satisfied? Then he looked around and asked, "Where is your young master? This period of time has been hard on him. We have to thank him." Gang leader Huang looked a little worried, but it disappeared in a flash. He said, "That brat doesn't know what's good for him. I don't know where he went. I sent several disciples to look for him, but they couldn't find him." Although young Master Huang is a little rough, but Peng Yeyu obviously saw the old man's worry and comforted him. Maybe he has some personal matters to attend to. He will be back in a few days. Haha, that's true. This child has grown up. I have a lot to worry about. Come, young Master Peng, let me send you off tomorrow. Please put in a good word for me in front of the Lord. Of course, you're welcome. Peng Yeyu finished his cup in one gulp. The people in the hall also laughed. All kinds of people came forward, exchanging toasts with Peng Yeyu. After a while, seeing that Peng Yeyu was happy, Chief Huang probed. Young Master Peng, this old man wants to ask if it's convenient for you? Peng Yeyu was taken aback. He smiled and said, Chief Huang, please go ahead. As long as it's not a secret, I will tell you everything I know. No, Chief Huang quickly shook his head. The Lord is very gracious to us. We know that the Lord is very important, so how can we not know the severity of the matter? This old man just wants to ask if you remember the couple that my son met when he was hunting with you? Those two people? Young Master Peng seemed to have a deep impression of this matter. He immediately frowned and asked, Chief Huang, what do you mean? Oh, it's like this. Chief Huang chose his words carefully and said, I heard from my brothers that after young Master Peng met that couple, my son searched for them and never came back. Peng Yeyu frowned. At first, he was dissatisfied, but then he gradually calmed down. Then he was surprised and said, Could it be that there's something wrong with that couple? Then he muttered to himself, This is not possible. Then his expression changed greatly. Could it be that they could hide from my eyes? Therefore, this old man wants to confirm with young Master Peng about the origins of these two people. My son must have died in their hands. But I heard from my disciples that they were very young. Although my son is ridiculous, he has more than 10 years of cultivation. Moreover, he brought 5 people with him. There's no way he would have failed. Peng Yeyu frowned and said, From what I saw, those 2 people are exactly as Chief Huang thought. They are just 2 juniors who have just entered the Jianghu. It can't be. Chief Huang wanted to ask more, but at this moment hurried footsteps were heard. Someone shouted, Chief Huang, there's an urgent report from Don't Worry City. Chief Huang frowned and scolded. Can't you see that I have something important to do? Let's talk about it tomorrow. When the person heard this, he was about to leave. Chief Huang, this is your fault. This is an urgent matter of the Falling Stars Alliance. How can you delay it because of me? Peng Yeyu shook his head slightly. Ha, young Master Peng is lucky. Chief Huang panicked, but he wasn't nervous. He waved his hand and said, Come in and report. Yes, sir. The disciple outside said urgently, I just received an urgent report from Don't Worry City. This afternoon, Longting Villa attacked Rejuvenation Valley, but failed. An immortal suddenly appeared and killed all of them. Not only Chief Huang, but young Master Peng's expression also changed. He said loudly, What happened? Tell me in detail. After the disciple told him the whole story, young Master Peng frowned and said, This is all hearsay. It doesn't count. Right, where are the people of Longting Villa? Were they all killed? No one was left alive. Villa Lord Longting and other experts were all killed. Many of the disciples also escaped. All right, Chief Huang. Since something happened in Don't Worry City, I can't rush back. I'll go to Don't Worry City now. Find a reliable person to go to Longting Villa and deal with the matter there. Find someone who knows the truth and ask him about it. Then report back to the Lord in detail. Chief Huang stood up and said with a serious face, As you command, young Master Peng. All right, all good things must come to an end. This banquet is over. Chief Huang, prepare the horses. I'll go now. Yes, sir. The group dispersed. They left the dock and boarded boats to the shore. Then, they rode their horses and prepared to deal with the situation. As for the culprit, Zhang Xiaohua, she had already left Don't Worry City with Meng. They set up their tents in a forest and rested. News traveled fast in the Jianghu. In just a few days, news of immortals appearing in Don't Worry City had spread. Many people changed their plans and went to Don't Worry City to gather information. Lingering Fragrance Peak, Don't Worry Palace. Jingyi frowned and said to the people in the hall, Immortals are rare in the Jianghu. How can there be such a coincidence? First, traces of immortal seniors appeared in the ruins of Huanshu. Then our restriction formation collapsed. Then immortals appeared in Don't Worry City and went on a killing spree. Is the young miss of Rejuvenation Valley really so talented? Or is this just an excuse? Jing Fan said. No matter what, the appearance of immortals in the Jianghu is the beginning of chaos. It's in line with the forefathers' prophecy. That's right. Although the failure of our sect protecting formation is inevitable due to the change in the world's primordial qi, it's also true that the primordial qi of heaven and earth is gradually recovering. The rise of immortals is also an irresistible trend. The immortals must have seen some clues and appeared, so they want to reap benefits in the Jianghu in the future. Since that's the case, the other great sects must have made preparations. If we don't plan ahead, we'll lose the initiative in the future. Yes, I want to hear your teachings. Haha, if you only think of it now, won't it be too late? Don't worry, we've already planned ahead. We'll start now. Your wise hierarch. A towering mountain peak that was shaped like a heaven-piercing sword pierced through the white clouds in the sky. There were continuous rows of houses on the mountain peak. In a magnificent hall, there was a yellow-faced old man with an uncertain expression. He frowned slightly as he looked at a disciple in front of him and said, "Is what you said true? Did Rejuvenation Valley really get in touch with immortals?" Reporting to the Alliance Master, it's true. Everything this lowly one has said is true. This lowly one has seen and heard everything in Sorrow City that day. Good, I'll remember your contribution. You may leave. After the disciple left, the old man with a yellow face pondered for a long time. He raised his eyes to look at the people below and said, "Everyone, our alliance of righteousness started after the immortals. We don't have any inheritance to speak of, so we don't have any relationship with immortals. This immortal, we have to believe it." Then he hesitated and looked at a tall and thin old man beside him. He said in a low voice, "Vice Alliance Master Chai, do you remember the evil tiger gang outside Pingyang City? That time, Vice Alliance Master Jiang disappeared mysteriously. There were only traces of fire in the underground hall. Moreover, all the lids of the jade coffins were missing. I heard from the disciples on duty that there were only a group of men from the pugilistic world and soldiers who surrounded them. Those hostages were rescued. They didn't take away the jade coffins. How could so many lids disappear?" The old man also cupped his hands and said, "Alliance Master's words are reasonable. This subordinate is also thinking. I wonder, is this immortal the same person who attacked the evil tiger gang?" "Forget it, it shouldn't be." Zhang Sen waved his hand, hatred in his eyes. "That bastard ruined my plans. What's the use of knowing? Sigh, immortals, immortals. Do you know about immortals?" Chapter 973. The vice leaders of the Righteous Alliance looked at each other. At their level, how could they not have heard of the immortal Tao? Didn't the Righteous Alliance attack the Misty School because they coveted the Misty School's immortal Tao legacy? Reporting to Alliance leader, a tall and thin old man with only a left arm said, "Our Righteous Alliance. Although we claim to be a first-rate sect in the pugilistic world, we don't have any immortal Tao legacy. Our position has always been awkward, ranking last among the 4 sections. Even sects like the incense cult that don't appear in the pugilistic world are ranked ahead of us. However, over the past few decades, under Alliance leader Zhang's guidance, the situation has improved. Our Righteous Alliance has not only searched for items related to the immortal Tao in the pugilistic world, we have also accumulated quite a lot of immortal Tao mantras and so-called Dharma artifacts. Especially after joining forces with the Dalan Temple and the incense cult to destroy the Misty School, our Righteous Alliance took over the Misty Peak and found the right path in exploring the immortal Tao. However, the Misty Peak is the foundation of the Misty School for 10,000 years. There are many mysteries in it. Our alliance has occupied it for many years, but we haven't found any clues about some of the forbidden areas. In other words, our Righteous Alliance in the Misty Peak has only obtained some ordinary martial arts items and very few immortal Tao items." Hearing that person mention the Misty School, Zhang San's face darkened. He said, "Vice Leader Chai's words are very reasonable. I thought that if we could take over the Misty Peak, there must be many secrets of the immortal Tao. Unfortunately, things don't go as planned. Another person stood up and said with a smile, Alliance Leader Zhang and Alliance Leader Chai are overthinking. The Misty School has long been removed from the pugilistic world. This Misty Peak belongs to our righteous alliance. In time, we will definitely find the secrets of the Immortal Dao Legacy. If the Immortal Dao Legacy is so easy to find, then the Immortal Dao wouldn't be so coveted by us. Zhang Sen smiled and nodded. Vice Leader Chai's words are reasonable. However, the Misty School has merged with the incense cult and probably won't appear in the pugilistic world anymore. We don't have to care about it. However, Hu Yuni's group is still hiding at the side. It's quite a headache. They're just a bunch of useless people. Why should Alliance Master Zhang care about them? That's not true. Zhang Sen shook his head and said, we have to eradicate all evil. We can't leave any traces behind. We've been paying attention to the path of immortality for the past few years, and have spent a lot of money. Now we can consider wiping out the remnants of the Misty School. Yes, Alliance Leader. Previously, Alliance Leader was worried about the incense cult. Over the past few years, the incense cult hasn't paid any attention to Hu Yuni and the rest. It's time to take action. Everyone chatted for a while before leaving. Zhang Sen stood up and walked to the back of the hall. He pushed open the door and entered a secret room. He sat down cross-legged and took out a small scarlet flag the size of a palm. His eyes were filled with hesitation and struggle as he looked at the flag. After a long time, a ferocious look appeared in his eyes. He seemed to have made a decision. Zhang Sen bit the tip of his tongue and spat a mouthful of blood onto the small flag. The strange thing was that the small flag wasn't contaminated by the blood. Instead, due to the blood, it glowed with a faint red light. This red light flashed and disappeared. The blood on the flag also disappeared as it was absorbed by the small scarlet flag. Following which, Zhang Sen took out a green origin stone. He closed his eyes and muttered as his face slowly turned pale. The skinny Vice Leader Chai came down from the hall. Just as he walked past a moon door, a disciple wearing the uniform of the Righteous Dao Alliance quietly walked over and whispered a few words into his ear. Vice Leader Chai's face lit up and he blurted out, "Is what you said true? Shui Yupeng was actually captured by you guys?" That disciple was a little embarrassed and he softly said, "Reporting to Lord Alliance Leader, it wasn't due to our efforts. It's just that Shui Yupeng was seriously ill, and it was just a coincidence. It can't be considered a contribution." "Ha!" Vice Leader Chai laughed heartily and patted that disciple's shoulder. "You are honest. Our Righteous Dao Alliance only cares about the results and not the process. Since you were able to capture Shui Yupeng, regardless of whether he was ill or if you did your best to capture him, it is still a great contribution. This Alliance Leader will definitely not overlook it. Thank you, Lord Alliance Leader." That disciple was overjoyed and cupped his hands to express his gratitude. "Where is Shui Yupeng? Quickly bring him to see this Alliance Leader. I still have some questions to ask him." Vice Leader Chai couldn't wait any longer. "This Shui Yupeng is seriously ill, and this disciple has already found a divine doctor in the Alliance to treat him. However, he can't move around freely. If the Alliance wants to interrogate him, then I will have to make a trip personally. That's for sure." Vice Leader Chai laughed. "Back then, when we destroyed the Misty School and killed their gang leader O at the Misty Peak, only 3 of the Misty Peak's 6 tigers were left. Other than Hu Yuni, who was seriously injured, the other 2 were crippled. Only Shui Yupeng, who was the rightful vice gang leader of the Misty School, escaped because he was commanding the Navy and wasn't at the Misty Peak. In recent years he was chased by the Dalan Temple and the Xian Rong gang, and disappeared without a trace. Now that we have captured him, it is another great contribution after destroying the Misty School. If this Alliance Leader doesn't go and see him, how can I show his importance?" "Yes, Alliance Leader is wise." After that disciple finished speaking, he brought Vice Leader Chai to a rather luxurious guest room. Vice Alliance Leader Chai frowned as soon as he entered the room. He smelled a strong medicinal fragrance. When he looked at the bed, he saw a yellow-skinned man lying on his back. Large beads of sweat dripped from his forehead. Beside the bed sat an old man dressed as a doctor. He had just removed his fingers from the man's wrist when he saw Vice Leader Chai enter. He quickly stood up and cupped his hands. "Greetings, Vice Leader Chai." Vice Leader Chai snorted. "How is this person's illness?" Reporting to Alliance Master, "This person's illness isn't serious. It's just that he's been delayed for too long, so he's scratching his head a little. I've already asked the medicine boy to brew some medicine for him. Just now, I checked his pulse, and it's gradually stabilizing. If he takes the medicine for another 7 days and recuperates for a month or 2, he should be fine." "Good." Vice Leader Chai clapped his hands. "This person is very important to our Righteous Tao Alliance. As long as you treat him, you will naturally be rewarded." "Thank you, Alliance Leader." The doctor was overjoyed. He no longer called him Vice Leader and directly called him Alliance Leader. Vice Leader Chai walked to the bed and saw that the man's eyes were tightly shut. He couldn't help but sneer. "Shui Yuping, Vice Leader Shui? Since you are already in our Righteous Tao Alliance, why are you pretending to be unconscious?" Hearing Vice Leader Chai's words, Shui Yuping's eyelids trembled. She hesitated for a moment before opening her eyes. Her eyes were filled with fatigue and indignation. "Vice Leader Chai, I have long heard of your name, but I have never had the chance to meet you. Now that I am seriously ill, I can't greet you. Hee, this old man has always wanted to meet you. But you've always been hiding from this old man. How do you expect this old man to meet you? If not for your illness, I'm afraid it would be extremely difficult to meet you." Shortly after, Vice Leader Chai mocked himself. "What great name. I am just this old man. On Ethereal Peak, my right arm was chopped off by Li Jian from your Misty School. Vice Leader Shui, you must have heard more about this." Shui Yuping's eyes twitched a few times. Her tone was filled with indignation. "I am just a nobody on the water path. I don't know why the alliance leaders of the Righteous Tao Alliance think so highly of me. Even if I am seriously ill, you still invited me to Righteous Tao Peak? Seriously ill? You are seriously ill and you still know that this is Righteous Tao Peak?" Vice Leader Chai mocked. "If you are just a nobody, why would the Xian Rong gang join forces with the Dalan Temple to occupy your territory? Why would the monks from the Dalan Temple look for you everywhere? Forget it, Vice Leader Shui. Let's not beat around the bush. You are the Vice Leader of the Misty School. The Alliance of the Righteous Tao, the Dalan Temple, and the Incense Cult joined forces to destroy the Misty School. You should know the reason. I don't want to make things difficult for you. Just tell me the secret." Then he looked at the herbs in the room. "Look at you now. Even an ordinary illness can make you like this. If the Alliance of the Righteous Tao didn't find you, you might have died of illness. If this spread to Jianghu, wouldn't you become a laughingstock? Cough cough." Shui Yuping was so angry that her face turned red. She said, "Isn't it all because of the monks from the Dalan Temple?" Hee, Vice Leader Shui, if you are sensible, the Alliance of the Righteous Tao will guarantee that the monks from the Dalan Temple won't cause you any trouble in the future. Also, you might be able to remove the vice from your title." Shui Yuping raised her eyebrows. "What do you mean, Vice Leader Chai? What do I mean?" Vice Leader Chai smiled. "I remember that when Hu Yuni from the Misty School escaped, he brought a disciple called Tian Tian with him. Do you know him?" Shui Yuping's expression changed. "So what if I know him? So what if I don't? I also remember that Tian Tian's surname is Shui. Also, he is the disciple of the chief disciple of the Misty School, Zhang Qingyue." Well, Shui Yuping suddenly felt like she had lost all her strength. She waved her hand and said, "Vice Leader Chai, if you have anything to say, just say it. Don't beat around the bush." Hee, Vice Leader Shui, after your brothers from the Misty School were destroyed by the Shinrong gang and the Dalan Temple, they have been hiding. Why didn't you go find Hu Yuni? Or perhaps the remaining members of the Misty School don't recognize you as their vice leader." Vice Leader Chai looked at Shui Yuping and continued, "You should know that you are the vice leader of the Misty School. After Openg died, you should be the leader of the Misty School. Although Hu Yuni is Openg's senior, and can be considered the grand elder of the Misty School, he still has to listen to you, the vice leader. Even if you don't become the vice leader, That disciple called Tian Tian is the disciple of the chief disciple of the Misty School. The chief disciple should have inherited O Peng's position. Now that the chief disciple is dead, his disciple, Tian Tian, should have inherited O Peng's position as the leader of the Misty School. Tian Tian is only an 11 or 12-year-old disciple. If he doesn't have a strong backer in the Misty School, how can he be the leader? If you don't go back to the Misty School and stay by Tian Tian's side, how can he be the leader? Not only that, if someone wants to be the leader of the Misty School, then Tian Tian's life can't be saved. Shui Yuping's expression turned ugly. It was as if he had spoken her mind. Why didn't Hu Yuni let you go find them? I'm afraid you know better than me. Vice Leader Chai asked with a smile. The Misty School has already been destroyed. It's extremely difficult to rebuild it. Moreover, Hu Yuni is heavily injured and hasn't recovered for many years. If he wanted to be the leader, he could have done it a long time ago. Why did he have to go through so many twists and turns? Shui Yuping said coldly, but the look in her eyes showed that she wasn't determined enough. Ha. Vice Leader Chai laughed. You may know a person for a long time, but you don't know his true nature. Moreover, Vice Leader Shui is still in the prime of her life. If you can become the leader of a large faction in the martial arts world, who says you won't be remembered for generations to come? People need to have a little ambition. Hehe. Shui Yuping laughed. Vice Leader Chai, you've said so much. I understand, but I don't know what the Righteous Alliance is thinking. Even when you three factions destroyed the Misty School, I was still in the dark. I still don't know the reason. Vice Leader Chai clapped his hands and said, I love talking to smart people. Vice Leader Shui, why don't you tell me? There's nothing much to say. Vice Leader Chai, think about it. I just joined the Misty School before it was destroyed. Peng only let me take the position of Vice Leader because he didn't need to control the Luo Shui faction. Moreover, he used the chance to get the Misty School's legacy cultivation method as bait. So, Peng, or the 6 Misty Tigers didn't think of me as a direct descendant of the Misty School. Or rather, they didn't have enough time to trust me. Yes, Vice Leader Chai nodded. Vice Leader Shui is right. Didn't you notice something strange, Vice Sect Master Shui? He asked. Shui Yuping smiled bitterly. How would I know? I was sent back to the Luo Shui faction the moment I joined the Misty School. My family members were all in the Misty School. How would I know about the Misty Mountain Manor? Even every day. I rarely see it. I only treated Zhang Qingyue to a banquet when he was my disciple. Vice Leader Chai hesitated for a moment before asking. Then Vice Leader Shui, have you seen a sheepskin scroll? Sheepskin scroll? Shui Yuping thought for a moment and shook his head. No, I have never heard of it, let alone seen it. Yes, Vice Leader Chai thought for a moment and said. Vice Leader Shui, only you and I will know about today's conversation. No one else will know. Moreover, the matter of Vice Gang Leader Shui coming to my Righteous Dao Alliance is between you and me. There is absolutely no third person who knows about it. Vice Gang Leader Shui, please rest assured that my Righteous Dao Alliance will definitely help Vice Gang Leader Shui fulfill her promise. Shui Yuping wanted to say something but stopped. Vice Alliance Leader Chai walked to the door and turned around. As for whether Vice Alliance Leader Shui or Tian Tian is the Alliance leader, our Righteous Alliance doesn't care. What we care about is that sheepskin scroll. After speaking, he closed the door and left. It was a quiet room. It was very simple. On the wall, there was a merciful-looking Buddha holding 7 bamboo sticks. There was a bookshelf under the Buddha and a few yellow cloth praying mats. At this moment, there were a few old monks with white hair sitting on the praying mats. The one in front was the head elder of the Dalan Temple. Abbot, I have already reported the matter of Worry-Free City. Do you have anything else to say? The head elder closed his eyes and slowly moved his Buddhist beads from one to the other. The sandalwood beside him still emitted a faint fragrance. After a long time, the head elder opened his mouth and said, Our Dalan Temple has been in Jianghu for tens of thousands of years. Since the path of immortality, we have not fallen behind anyone. Now that the path of immortality is flourishing, our Dalan Temple is flourishing. Why are you so nervous? But the monk said, that person from the path of immortality is very skilled. He has the legendary flying technique and flying sword technique. I'm afraid, this is the doing of the Tenryu sect. Does the abbot not feel that this is a provocation from the Tenryu sect? Brother Changgung, others may not know the strength of our Dalan temple, but don't you know? Years ago, after our founder founded the Tenryu sect, we were surrounded by the Misty School and the Incense School. At that time, the situation was very bad. How is it now? It's like the difference between heaven and earth. Years ago, the Tenryu sect couldn't destroy our Dalan temple. Today it's even more impossible. Moreover, Macho City belongs to the Incense School. Since the Incense School hasn't done anything, why should we be worried? Moreover, we are people who are not part of this world. We are free and quiet. Why should we be bothered by external things? The abbot is right. Changgung put his palms together and said in a low voice, our Dalan temple is not like the Misty School. If the path of immortality comes, we will use earth to block them. If soldiers come, we will block them. Why should we be afraid? When he said this, the head elder raised his eyebrows. His calm demeanor disappeared and his voice was full of arrogance. It was a simple and unadorned hall that occupied a vast area. It was more than 10 times larger than the Mo Xian Palace on Lingering Fragrance Peak. The entire hall was dark red in color and exuded a mysterious aura. The thick pillars that even 10 people couldn't wrap their arms around were engraved with all kinds of strange malevolent faces. All of them didn't look human, but they also had human expressions. Some had wings on their backs, some had 3 heads, and some were spitting out scarlet flames while chewing on something bloody. The hall was over 100 feet tall, and there were many carvings on the ceiling. These carvings were arranged in groups, and they seemed to be telling a story. The main characters in the story all had horns on their heads, and they were human-shaped and ghostly. There were also some who had handsome faces, but their bodies were grotesquely shaped. Among the patterns, many faint talismans could be faintly seen. These talismans were different from the ones Zhang Xiaohua learned from Elder Hua. They were also different from the ones on the Xiao tablet of Chuanxiang cult. However, they were similar to the innate divine restriction that Zhang Xiaohua was practicing. At this moment, there were a few people in the hall. However, their clothes were different from the ordinary people of Jianghu. Some of them had their clothes half torn, revealing their bare arms. Some of them only wore a few pieces of cloth to cover their important parts. The rest of them were naked. Some of them were completely black and covered their entire body. Above them, there was a chair. It was very strange. The back of the chair was about 10 feet tall. At the top of the back, there were 2 strange beast heads. The beast heads spat out a white bone from their mouths. The bone was long and embedded at the edge of the chair. The armrest of the chair was pitch black. At this moment, there was a white skull at the top. A fair and slender hand was pressing on the skull. The hand moved and the index finger moved slightly. A magnetic voice sounded. A person of the immortal Tao actually appeared in Sorrow City? This is interesting. It's a pity that the Chuanxiang cult is in seclusion, and they don't care about it. Who would care about this? However, this person of the immortal Tao appeared out of nowhere. Other than the Chuanxiang cult, the Dalan temple, and my dragon god sect, where else could there be a person of the immortal Tao? Could it be the Misty School? If it were them, the first thing they would do would be to the Righteous Alliance. Why would they have the time to care about Rejuvenation Valley? Everyone in the hall was silent. They were as silent as statues as they listened to the person talking to himself. Gennaro, how is that matter going? It's been 5 years. Why is there no news at all? A beautiful woman with a graceful figure replied. Reporting to Lord Sakura, this subordinate has been working on it ever since I received Lord's decree. However, I still haven't found a single clue. And hurry up. On the tall chair, the tall figure covered in a loose black cloak appeared somewhat thin and small. Flying technique. Garuda, you can't compare to this person. Reporting to Heavenly King, this subordinate's Imperial Wind technique is also at the great accomplishment level. There may be a gap between us, but the gap shouldn't be too big. After all, our Dragon God sect's Imperial Wind technique is different from others. A lean man wrapped in pitch-black clothes said arrogantly. Forget it. Since this person has shown his face, he will probably appear in the Jianghu in the future. We'll talk about it when we meet him. However, the Qi of heaven and earth has recovered and the immortal Tao is about to flourish. My dragon god sect also has to deal with this. That righteous alliance destroyed the Misty School, and the Chuanxiang cult and the Dalan Temple were also involved. There must be some unknown secret behind this. However, the news that our disciples sent was for some martial arts secret manual. But until now, the Misty School has been destroyed for 4 years and I still don't know the reason behind it. Don't you think this is ridiculous? The Sakra said sternly. No matter if it's the Chuanxiang cult or the Dalan Temple, there's no need to fear them. Even if the Misty School and the Chuanxiang cult were destroyed, it has nothing to do with us. However, the reason why they were destroyed and why the 2 big sects were involved is related to us. This, I must know. Seeing that the Sakra was angry, everyone in the hall didn't speak. After waiting for a long time, a very ugly man said, reporting to Heavenly King, the reason why the Misty School was destroyed is only known by the 3 sect leaders. The others are not clear. The survivors of the Misty School were all captured by the Chuanxiang cult. If we want to get information, we have to start with these people. But although we have direct subordinates in the Chuanxiang cult, but the Chuanxiang cult's protection array is very powerful. The news can't be spread out. Even if there is any clue, we won't know. What about the Misty Schools, Hu Yuni and the others? Aren't they in the Jianghu? Why can't we find any loopholes? This, Heavenly King, if I capture Hu Yuni, I may be able to find some clues. But wouldn't this be beating the grass and alerting the snake? If the Chuanxiang cult and the Dalan Temple are prepared, I'm afraid it will be disadvantageous to Heavenly King's actions. There's nothing this or that. The Sakra was still unhappy. When my dragon god sect does things, how can there be so many taboos? Quickly do it, I want to know the reason. Chapter 974. The morning sun gushed out from the mountains in the east, waking up the birds in the forest. The continuous mountains, which looked like creeping monsters, gradually revealed their outlines. The faint mist dissipated, tearing apart the veil covering the small stream by the mountain. On the lush grass in the forest, the dewdrops were like tears, sparkling and translucent. A few nameless wildflowers, either yellow or red, had just bathed in the sunlight when they heard the sound of hurried horse hooves in the distance on a small path in the forest that was not very wide. When they got closer, they could see that one of them was a handsome white horse. On the horse was a woman in a light purple palace dress with a white veil covering her face. The other was a monster that looked like a donkey, but it wasn't one. On the monster was a slender young man with a slightly tender face. These 2 people were Zhang Xiaohua and Dream, who had been traveling for half a month. Zhang Xiaohua's face showed a little bit of wind and frost. Dream looked at her and said with concern, Xiaohua, why are you in such a hurry? According to the map of the hierarch, we should reach the Dalan Temple in a few miles. We can get there at noon. Look at you, you've been traveling for a long time and you look haggard. Zhang Xiaohua chuckled and said, in Jianghu, of course we have to eat and sleep in the open. We're quite relaxed. Besides, I'm not as tired as you said. Not tired? Dream curled her lips and said, I used to think about how free it was to travel in Jianghu, but now that I'm in Jianghu, I know how dangerous it is. Not to mention those strong people who rob us, there are also many thieves who secretly covet our belongings. If you didn't have some experience in Jianghu, I'm afraid we don't know when we'll get there. Senior sister Qinchin has always been thinking about traveling in Jianghu. I think even if she comes, she may not be able to get any advantage. Zhang Xiaohua nodded and said, that's right. Traveling in Jianghu is not just about martial arts. Vision, experience, and so on are all very important. Qinchin will certainly be at a disadvantage at first, but it may not be the same in the future. Of course, if you go out with them as an emissary. Oh, right now put on your palace robe and veil. Anyone with a discerning eye will know that you are an inner disciple of the fragrant cult. Who would dare to have any ideas about you? That's right. Now that I think about it, having a powerful sect is such a fortunate thing. Haha, well, You have everything you want now. You'd better hurry up and send the invitation to the Dalan Temple. Now that I've been out for more than a month, I wonder how things are at Dianchi Lake? Senior Sister Peacock and Senior Sister Yian have both come out. There are also many disciples who have gone to other sections. I'm sure that the matter of me spreading the incense order has already caused a stir in the martial world. Zhang Xiaohua shook her head. The day before yesterday, in the restaurant by the river, I heard the men who were escorting people talk about some anecdotes of the Jianghu. The matters of Rejuvenation Valley were all mentioned, but there was no mention of the incense cult. I'm afraid. Then why did you make me wear this palace dress and veil? Meng rebuked. Zhang Xiaohua thought about it and said, perhaps the hierarch has a good plan? He wants us to leave at different times but arrive at our destination at the same time? Isn't that so? Meng was startled. I was wondering why the two of us were allowed to leave first. According to the rules, Senior Sister Peacock should be the first to leave. As the two of them chatted, they walked up the mountain ridge. From the top of the mountain ridge, they could see that there were temples with green tiles and red walls. All of a sudden, the melodious sound of a bell rang out, causing one to feel refreshed. What a place! The green tiles glowed brightly under the sunlight, and the green forest around the temple exuded a rich vitality. Zhang Xiaohua could faintly see the incense burning in the temple, and he could not help but exclaim in admiration when he noticed a refined atmosphere that was different from that of the incense cult. Isn't that so? This temple is so vast and majestic. It's worthy of being called an immortal sect. It's not inferior to my incense order. I wonder what the other Tenryas sect is like. Who knows? However, the Tenryas sect is known as the #1 sect in the world. It should be more majestic than the Dalan Temple and the Incense Order. Isn't that easy? Let's go back and ask Senior Sister Peacock. As the two of them spoke, they descended the mountain ridge and rode their horses towards the temple. Looking from afar, they didn't feel anything. When they got closer, they saw that there were people coming and going in front of the temple. There were many people offering incense and praying. Zhang Xiaohua was riding a David's deer, and he was wearing a palace dress. He was very different from the others. Before he reached the door of the temple, he attracted the attention of many people. Everyone was pointing at him in surprise. Xiaohua, something isn't right. Meng looked at the crowd in front of the temple and said, didn't the hierarch say that women are forbidden from entering? The Dalan Temple forbids women from entering. That's why they sent you here. But, look, there are many women carrying incense and candles in. Is that so? Zhang Xiaohua was startled. He looked carefully and said, that's right. The plaque above the temple also says Dalan Temple. Zhang Xiaohua muttered in his heart. He didn't dare to release his divine sense. The Dalan Temple was a colossus on par with the Incense Order. Moreover, the immortal who saved Rejuvenation Valley was in the limelight. If he released his divine sense, not only would the Dalan Temple know, but the Incense Order would also know. Then, there would be a reasonable explanation for all the inexplicable matters. After thinking for a while, Zhang Xiaohua jumped off his deer and walked towards an old man. He bowed and said, Sir, may I ask if this is the Dalan Temple? Yes. Young man, don't you know how to read? The old man smiled and pointed at the words on the plaque. If the young don't work hard, the old will be sad. You should study hard and learn how to read. Zhang Xiaohua was sweating profusely. However, he still cared for the elderly and said respectfully, this one has already seen it. I just want to ask if this is the only Dalan Temple in this area? The old man slammed his walking stick on the ground and said angrily, young man, are you here to offer incense? There is only one Dalan Temple in this area. How can there be another Dalan Temple? Please forgive me. This one is here to fulfill a wish for others. If I enter the wrong temple, won't I be ridiculed by Buddha? Go in, go in. The old man waved his hand. This is the only Dalan Temple in this world. It can't be wrong. But I heard that the Dalan Temple doesn't allow women to enter. Is this true? It's all a rumor. Open your eyes and see for yourself. Out of the 10 people who come to the Dalan Temple, 70% are women. If women are not allowed to enter, how can the Dalan Temple prosper? Don't worry, old man. This one has one last thing to ask. Yes. May I ask who is the current abbot of the Dalan Temple? Is it still Master Chongqing? Master Chongqing? The old man was obviously stunned. Although this Buddhist name sounds nice, the abbot of the Dalan Temple is a good friend of mine in my early years. His Buddhist name is Wu Ho, not Chongqing. Thank you for your explanation. Zhang Xiaohua returned after bowing. She frowned and said, It's just as you said. This temple is strange and the abbot has been changed to Wu Ho. Did something unexpected happen to the Dalan Temple in this month? Then, since women are allowed to enter, how about I follow you inside and take a look? Zhang Xiaohua had no objections. The two of them entered the Dalan Temple hand in hand. Inside the Dalan Temple was an extremely spacious and empty space. It was several times bigger than the square of the Lotus Escort Agency in Pingyang City. Unlike the Lotus Escort Agency, there were many pilgrims gathered in the square. All of them were holding lit incense sticks in their hands. Huge incense burners were placed in pairs in the four corners of the square. These incense burners were open and many pilgrims lit the incense sticks in their hands. They placed them in the burners, and then walked to the back of the main hall in twos and threes. Zhang Xiaohua and Meng didn't hold any incense sticks. They just followed behind and watched with interest. After passing the main hall, there was another square. Beside each incense burner in the square stood a handsome young monk who wasn't very tall. Zhang Xiaohua and Meng came in front of a monk and bowed. Little master, there's something I need your help with. The monk put his palms together and said with a smile, Benefactor, you're too polite. What's the matter? Well, this senior and I came from the incense cult. We're here to pay our respects to the Dalan Temple's Abbot Chongqing. Abbot Chongqing? The young monk was stunned and asked curiously, Little benefactor, are you mistaken? I've been here for 3 years. I only know that the abbot of the Dalan Temple is Master Wu Luan. I've never heard of Chongqing. Zhang Xiaohua asked again, What about the great Master Chonggung and Master Chongqing? I've never heard of them. The monk shook his head. Then, does the Dalan Temple have any little monks called Yuan Lai or Yuan Kong? No, the monk shook his head. I'm afraid you're mistaken. Oh yes, does the Dalan Temple have a commandment hall and Arhut hall? Haha, little benefactor, don't make fun of me. The Dalan Temple is only this big. Why would there be so many things to pay attention to? What commandment hall and Arhut hall? If you want to burn incense and make a vow, please buy some incense and candles and burn them in the Great Strength Hall. Zhang Xiaohua was discouraged. Suddenly, she was stunned and smiled. How big did you say the Dalan Temple is? Little benefactor, don't make fun of me. Isn't the Dalan Temple only this big? Do you think that the entire mountain is the Dalan Temple? Ha ha ha, Zhang Xiaohua laughed. Yes, that's what I thought. However, after listening to Little Master's words, I know. I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong either. We're both right. After saying that, she cupped her hands and turned to leave. The young monk was left behind. He looked at the smiling Zhang Xiaohua and thought to himself, What is this little benefactor thinking? Are you looking for someone to identify Chanji? After pulling Meng Qi out of the Dalan Temple, Meng Qi asked, Why did you come out? What did you say to that little monk? I don't think I understand. Haha, it's nothing. I just know that this Dalan Temple is not the Dalan Temple. And this Dalan Temple is the Dalan Temple. Chapter 975. Meng was stunned and asked curiously, What do you mean by this Dalan Temple? What do you mean by that Dalan Temple? Why am I getting more and more confused? Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said mysteriously, Come with me. After saying that, Zhang Xiaohua pulled Dream's hand. The two of them led their horses past the entrance of the Dalan Temple. They followed the mountain path up the mountain, and headed to the back of the mountain. Behind the mountain was a dense forest. From time to time, they could hear the chirping of birds. As the two of them walked through the forest, a sense of serenity filled their hearts. Meng glanced sideways at Zhang Xiaohua. At this moment, Zhang Xiaohua was also smiling at her. Meng pursed her lips and smiled. She leaned her head sideways on Zhang Xiaohua's shoulder. Zhang Xiaohua reached out and wrapped his arm around Meng's waist. The two of them leaned against each other as they strolled along the mountain path. Warm times were always short. Just when Zhang Xiaohua and Meng were hoping that they would walk on this path forever, they arrived at a mountain spring. "Are you thirsty?" Zhang Xiaohua whispered into Meng's ear. "No, don't talk. I just want to hear your heartbeat." Zhang Xiaohua laughed, but before he could finish laughing, he raised his eyebrows and looked towards the mountain path in the distance. Meng Shu's eyes were slightly closed, but when Zhang Xiaohua looked up, she opened her eyes as well. At the end of the mountain path in the distance, a group of bald monks ran over. They looked to be in their teens. This group of monks was strange. They were using the qing gong that was commonly seen in the Jianghu. But when they were using it, their arms were spread open, and each of their hands was holding a huge bucket that was about the same height as them. The bottom of the bucket was also different from usual. It was pointed. The monks rushed towards Zhang Xiaohua and company, but they did not even look at them. They walked straight to the mountain spring, and each of them threw the buckets in their hands into the mountain spring. They filled 2 buckets with water, and just like before, they stretched out their arms and grabbed the 2 buckets in their hands. This Zhang Xiaohua and Meng were shocked. The buckets were quite big and the water must have weighed more than 100 jin. These monks were only in their teens, and they were holding the buckets at shoulder height. How could they do it with less than 100 jin of strength? Zhang Xiaohua and Meng looked at each other in surprise. These monks were the lowest disciples of the Dalan Temple. Fetching water must be part of their daily routine. As the saying goes, looking at a leopard through a tube. Just by looking at the monks' skills, they knew how rich the Dalan Temple was. "Little master, is the Dalan Temple in front?" Meng Qi asked the last monk hurriedly. However, the monk only looked at them from the corner of his eyes and ignored them. He carried the buckets with both hands and turned a corner. "This little monk is really ignorant," Meng Qi said softly. The little monk seemed to have heard Meng Qi's words, and his ears moved slightly. However, at this moment, perhaps because he was distracted or because the spring was slippery, the little monk slipped and fell into the spring. However, even so, the small monk still held onto the 2 buckets tightly. Because of this, the 2 buckets weighed over 100 jin. The small monk was unable to adjust his balance and fell into the mountain spring. At this moment, it was already too late for him to let go of the buckets. "Io!" Seeing that the little monk was about to fall into the spring, Meng Qi cried out. She moved slightly and wanted to save him. However, before she could finish her cry, she saw Zhang Xiaohua's familiar figure. She floated towards the little monk like a wisp of smoke. The little monk didn't notice, and a hand grabbed him by the back of his neck. He was pulled up from the spring, and his body floated back to the top of the mountain. The 2 buckets in the monk's hands were like feathers. Zhang Xiaohua's actions were very fast. When the little monks heard Meng Qi's cry and turned around, Zhang Xiaohua had already landed with the little monk. The little monk was stunned for a moment before a smile appeared on his face. He wanted to thank Zhang Xiaohua with his palms together, but when he saw the buckets in his hands, he nodded apologetically at Zhang Xiaohua. He then looked at the group of little monks and raised his right eyebrow. Without saying a word, he stood up and chased after the little monk. "This little monk? Why didn't he say thank you?" Meng Qi said unhappily. "Although I didn't save his life, I didn't let him become a drowned rat." Zhang Xiaohua knew that Meng Qi was still wary of the Dalan Temple. She complained with a smile. "Didn't you see that these little monks didn't say a word? Even when the little monk was about to fall into the water, he didn't say a word. Also, look at the sharp bottom of the buckets. It seemed like they weren't allowed to stop. Hee, didn't you see the little monk winking at us? Wasn't he trying to tell us to follow him?" "Oh, I see." Meng Qi pursed her lips and smiled. Then she smacked her lips and said, "Xiaohua hee, your qing gong isn't good. Compared to senior sister Chen Chun, you have to work hard to cultivate your nigong in the future. Sai, the Jianghu is so dangerous. I still need you to protect me." "Ah." Zhang Xiaohua was stunned. She felt wronged and explained, "Meng Qi, I can compete with anyone. Why do I have to compete with senior sister Chen? She is a direct disciple of the inner gate. Now she is a successor disciple. It is said that if there is no accident, she will be in the position of Nun Jing Gang. How can I compete with her?" Then compete with senior sister Kong? Compare with Yu Yan? Zhang Xiaohua was speechless. She could only pat her chest and said, I know. They are all examples that I have to follow. The hierarch has given me the Nigong Heart Sutra. After I practice well, I will ask you to teach me the peerless Qing Gong of the incense cult. Mengqi stretched out a finger and put it in front of Zhang Xiaohua's mouth to stop him from speaking. She smiled and said, Don't ask me to teach you. My Qing Gong is not as good as yours. If you learn from me, I don't know how I will harm you. She then looked at the little monk who was gradually getting further away. She rolled her eyes and said, Why don't you learn from this group of little monks? They are doing this to train their arm strength, and also to practice their Qing Gong. Zhang Xiaohua pinched her chin and said, That is very reasonable. The Qing Gong of the incense cult is very coy. It is obvious that it is practiced by women. It is better to learn from the Dalan temple. There is always some masculine energy. Pei, Mengqi spat. If I do that, won't I be chased by senior sister Chen for thousands of miles? She then looked in front and smiled. Let's go. If we don't go now, that group of little monks will be far away. Zhang Xiaohua looked at Mengqi and smiled sweetly. The two of them quickened their pace and chased after the group of little monks. Although the little monk was young, he walked very fast. It was obvious that he often practiced here. When Zhang Xiaohua passed through a call, there were 3 forks in the road. The 3 paths were exactly the same, and there was no difference. The group of little monks had long disappeared. Xiaohua, look. Mengqi frowned at first, but then she smiled at the middle path and said, You are not helping people for nothing. You will receive a reward in just a moment. Zhang Xiaohua looked carefully. Indeed, there were some water stains on the side of the road. This little monk is interesting. Zhang Xiaohua touched her nose and said, He didn't ask us why we came to the Dalan temple. He just pointed the way. What do you want? Do whatever you want. Do you think the Dalan temple is afraid of you? Don't think too highly of yourself. Mengqi sneered. That is true. Zhang Xiaohua nodded. Lord Hierarch made me a guardian disciple, but he didn't ask me which sect I came from. Isn't that the reason? Well, let's go. Mengqi pulled Zhang Xiaohua's hand, and the two of them walked on the middle path. Although there was a horse, Mengqi still liked to hold his lover's hand like this. Step by step, it seemed that only by doing so could he feel at ease. In the time it took to smoke a cigarette, the mountain path gradually leveled out and widened. There was also a piece of bluestone paving the path. Not far away on the left side of the mountain, there was a smooth platform chiseled out. On the platform was a small triangular pavilion. At this time, a tall monk with a shiny head was standing on top of it, holding a crescent moon shovel. When the monk heard the sound of horse hooves and saw Zhang Xiaohua and Mengqi, he frowned slightly. He didn't get down and shouted loudly, Two young benefactors, in front of you is a forbidden area of Buddhism. You can't go forward. Please go somewhere else to play. When Zhang Xiaohua heard this, he also shouted, Master, I would like to ask if this is the location of the famous Dalan temple in the pugilistic world. When the monk heard, he was immediately alert. He jumped down from the platform and landed on the stone wall. Using the 8 steps overtaking cicada, he came to Zhang Xiaohua. Benefactors, why do you want to know about the Dalan temple? Are you here because of its reputation? Or do you want to become famous? Zhang Xiaohua was stunned and asked curiously, If you want to become famous, why do you want to come to the Dalan temple? Young benefactor, a straightforward person doesn't resort to insinuations. Who doesn't know that our Dalan temple is the most merciful. Most people who come to the Dalan temple to challenge us are welcomed with kindness and no harm. If you are lucky and can defeat one, when you return to Jianghu, you can say that you defeated a monk from the Dalan temple. Then, won't your reputation spread? If you are defeated, it doesn't matter. After eating, wipe your mouth and go back. Come back in 2 days. Zhang Xiaohua suddenly understood and smiled. Master, you misunderstood. We are not the people you are talking about. If it's not me, then why are you here? This is not a place for ordinary people. The monk didn't wait for Zhang Xiaohua to finish, and interrupted. Zhang Xiaohua bitterly smiled and pointed at Meng. Then, "Great monk, look at my senior sister's dress. Don't tell me you don't know our origin? What's so strange about this outfit?" When the monk heard this, he waved his hand and said, "This poor monk has been patrolling this area for a few years now. Every day, there would be women disguised as disciples of the incense cult coming here. But which one of them is real? Don't you dare try to pass me off as genuine." Ah? Not to mention Zhang Xiaohua, even Meng was shocked. They never thought that someone would pretend to be a disciple of the fragrant religion. Chapter 976. Is it strange? The monk laughed. "Don't you think your trick is very good? Is it something that others can't think of? There are many smart people in this world. Your trick is already outdated." "Well, I have been talking for a long time. Please turn back." Zhang Xiaohua sighed and said, "May I ask this monk, is the abbot of the Dalan temple an elder?" "Of course," the monk said proudly. "Since you know it's an elder, do you still want to be lucky? Then it's easy." Zhang Xiaohua turned around and looked at Meng. Meng came forward and said seriously, "I am Xia, a disciple of the Shirtai of the Incense Order. I am here with my sect's guardian disciple, Ren Xiaoyao. We are here on the orders of our sect's leader to visit the elder. We have something important to announce. Please send the signal to the temple." Ha ha ha. When the monk heard this, he was not in awe. Instead, he held his stomach and laughed. After a while, he held back his laughter and pointed at Zhang Xiaohua. He is a guardian disciple? You should have a limit to your tricks. How can he be a guardian disciple? Moreover, don't think that I am just a patrol. But I also know that the incense order can only enter the Jianghu in 2 years. You are here now. How can it be? Ha 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 ha. When the monk finished laughing, he saw that Zhang Xiaohua was expressionless and looked at him coldly. She sneered and said, "You can go back. I see that you are just juniors who have just entered the Jianghu. I will not pursue your crime of trespassing into the Dalan temple for the time being." "How can I make you believe me?" Ming asked. She then took out her waist token and threw it to the monk. "This is my waist token. It can be considered a token of the incense order. Check it." The monk borrowed it and looked at it carefully. However, his face was blank. He threw the token back and shook his head. "I'm just a patroller. When have I ever seen a token from the incense cult? Even if this thing of yours is fake, I wouldn't know." How can you believe me?" Meng Qi said anxiously. "I don't know. I only know that the incense cult will only have someone appear the year after next, especially a so-called inner disciple like you." Meng Qi was speechless. "Master, why don't you take this waste token to the temple and look for Elder Chang'eng or directly report to the elders? Wouldn't you be able to find out the truth?" Zhang Xiaohua suppressed her temper and suggested. "How can that be?" The monk shook his head and said, "In my early years, I also fell for the same trick, and was even whipped a few times by the commandment courtyard. How can I fall for it again?" Seeing the monk's repeated refusal, Zhang Xiaohua couldn't help but get angry. She sneered and said, "Then according to the great monk, how can you deliver this token to the temple? How can we meet the elders?" The great monk heard and sneered. "Not to mention that you are fake and just want to make a name for yourself. Even if you are real disciples of the incense cult, since you are in our Dalan temple, you have to follow the rules of our Dalan temple." Then he looked at the sky and said, "At this time, I am the only one on duty. I can't leave my post without permission. You all should wait here. When someone comes to take over the duty, I will bring your so-called waste token to the temple." "But great monk, can you please tell me how long it will be until the next shift?" Meng Qi sighed and asked. It's not long. It's only 6 hours. 6 hours. Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, "After 6 hours, the sun will be setting in the west." "Yes." The monk had a look of "you just know." Ha ha ha. Zhang Xiaohua looked up and laughed. As the saying goes, it is easy to see the king of hell, but difficult to deal with the little ghosts. It is indeed so. Then she looked at Meng Qi and smiled. I now know why the hierarch sent me here." As she spoke, she reached out and took the great wisdom sword from Huan Huan's back. She jumped up and said while in the air, "Do you want me to break into the Dalan temple?" Before he finished speaking, the great wisdom heavy sword had already struck towards the big monk's face. The great monk had been talking for a long time, and was already alert of the two's movements. When he saw Zhang Xiaohua make a move, he was happy and shouted, "You finally revealed your fox tail." As he spoke, the crescent moon spade also waved. The egg-sized stick met Zhang Xiaohua's heavy sword. It seemed like he wanted to knock Zhang Xiaohua's heavy sword away. Clang! A loud sound rang out as the heavy sword clashed with the crescent moon spade. The monk felt a ringing in his ears as his hands trembled violently. The webbing between his thumb and forefinger was immediately ruptured and fresh blood flowed out. His feet also felt the ground tighten as he forcefully sunk half an inch into the limestone floor. Looking at the crescent moon spade in his hand, the great monk was embarrassed and angry. He glared at Zhang Xiaohua and said, You really came to break the gate." After speaking, he did not wait for Zhang Xiaohua to speak. He took out an item from his chest and threw it into the air. The item exploded in the air, and a small red signal appeared in the air. "If you are a man, don't run away. Don't you want to be famous? I will make you famous," the great monk said fiercely. Humph. Zhang Xiaohua looked at his series of actions and did not say anything. She only snorted from her nose. In a short moment, 4 or 5 monks of the same size ran out from the mountain path. The one in front shouted from afar, "Junior Yuan Meng, is there someone breaking the gate? Why can't you stop them?" However, when the 5 monks saw Zhang Xiaohua and Meng, they couldn't help but be surprised. After standing in a triangular formation, they frowned and said, "Yuan Meng, are these the people who want to break through the gate?" "Yes, Senior Yuan Meng, look." Yuan Meng handed over the crescent moon spade in his hand and said, "This guy is quite strong. He even smashed my crescent moon spade into this state." When the great monk saw this, he could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. He looked at Zhang Xiaohua's thin figure and said in disbelief, This is really done by him?" "Senior Yuan Meng, if it is not him, who else can it be?" Yuan Meng said anxiously. Good guts." The monk laughed and said, "Our Dalan temple has always been good at external martial arts. You actually dared to bend Junior Yuan Meng's crescent moon spade. Didn't you want us to see your strength? Using this to slap our Dalan temple's face? Since that is the case, Junior Yuan Meng, let us attack together and take down this little nephew who does not know the immensity of heaven and earth. We will also let him know that our Dalan temple's external martial arts are the best in the world." Yes. When the other 4 heard this, they immediately spread out and surrounded Zhang Xiaohua and Meng. When Zhang Xiaohua saw this, she was too lazy to explain and said with a smile, "Since your Dalan temple wants to make a fool of yourself, why shouldn't I help you?" As she said this, she used the ethereal steps and waved the great wisdom sword in her hand, chopping towards the enemy. In this 1 month's time from Wuri City to the Dalan temple, Zhang Xiaohua, in addition to daily practice, focused her energy on the Sword of the Heavens and the Heaven-Startling Stick. Although the Sword of the Heavens did not make much progress, the Heaven-Startling Stick had made great progress. Otherwise, how could she force Yuan Meng to the brink of death? Since Yuan Meng could not withstand it, his senior brothers naturally could not either. Zhang Xiaohua's ethereal steps was incomparably miraculous. In just a few moves, the weapons in the hands of the 5 monks were bent. Their palms were cracked, and their arms were numb. You, the great monk who came later, threw his weapon on the ground and said in amazement, "Benefactor, which sect are you from? With such divine strength, you are exactly the kind of person our Dalan temple is looking for. If you join our Dalan temple, your future will be limitless." "Are you kidding me?" Zhang Xiaohua rolled her eyes and said, "I am Ren Xiaoyao, a guardian disciple of the fragrant religion. Why would I join your Dalan temple? Our Dalan temple is a super sect in Jianghu. How can the fragrant religion compare to us?" The great monk had just finished speaking when he suddenly realized, "What? The fragrant religion? You said the fragrant religion?" At this time his gaze fell on Zhang Xiaohua's back and Meng's dress. he said in disbelief. You are really disciples of the fragrant religion? Of course we are disciples of the fragrant religion. We wouldn't dare to impersonate you. Why didn't you say so earlier? The great monk said anxiously. Do you have any proof? Meng handed the waist token to him and said, We have already told this great monk. The monk took the waist token and glared at Yuan Meng. He also looked at it carefully and said with a bitter smile, This poor monk is not talented and cannot distinguish this waist token. What? Do you want Ren to join the Dalan temple? Zhang Xiaohua said with a smile. No, this poor monk will immediately send this waist token to the temple. Naturally, the elders of our sect will check it. The monk turned to someone and said, Junior, please go and send this waist token to Marshal Uncle Chong Gung. He has dealt with the fragrant religion before, so he should know. Yes. The monk took the waist token and ran away. Please wait for a moment. The great monk put his hands together and said, There will be news from the temple soon. I don't dare. Thank you for your trouble, great monk. Great monk. The monk was shocked and waved his hand. This poor monk is Yuan Hai. Benefactor's martial arts are high, so please call me Yuan Hai. I don't dare to call you great monk. All right. Are you and this lady really disciples of the fragrant religion? This lady looks like she is an inner disciple. Could it be that he didn't return to the incense order, and has always been in Jianghu? When Zhang Xiaohua saw the monk's amiable attitude, she also said, Of course we are disciples of the fragrant religion. As for why we are not spreading the incense cult, but instead suddenly appearing in the vicinity of the Dalan temple, when this humble one meets the elder, everything will naturally be revealed. Just as they were talking, they suddenly heard a slight movement. Several people were running towards them. Zhang Xiaohua's eyes were sharp, and she had already seen the monk who took the dream waist token. He was hiding behind this group of people. Chapter 977. At the front of this group of monks was a small monk who was not very tall. His body was slightly thin, and his face was somewhat young. He looked like he was only 13 or 14 years old. Although he looked young, he had an arrogant look on his face. The dozen monks beside him followed behind him respectfully. Without waiting for the monk to come closer, Yuan Hai saw him and immediately left Zhang Xiaohua behind. He quickly stepped forward, put his palms together and said with a smile, I was wondering who it was. So it's Marshal Uncle Kong Jian. How come you have time to come to the mountain gate? The monk did not return the greeting and only nodded with a smile. Who are you? Are you the junior nephew on duty today? Uncle Master, my name is Yuan Hai. I'm not on duty today. I was practicing Arhut fist with the other junior brothers in front of the mountain gate. When I saw junior brother Yuan Meng's signal without waiting for Yuan Hai to finish, Kong Jian waved his hand and said, You don't have to say anymore. I'm only asking if you're on duty today. I saw the signal too. What happened? Zhang Xiaohua looked on coldly without any expression on his face. The disciple who took the dream waist token was behind monk Yuan Kong. He must have been stopped by this monk. How could he not know what was going on here? Now that he asked, he was obviously trying to embarrass her. Hence Zhang Xiaohua did not answer. Sure enough, Yuan Hai looked at Zhang Xiaohua and said to Yuan Hai, Junior brother Yuan Meng, tell Uncle Master Kong Jian what happened here again. Yes, Yuan Meng answered respectfully. He walked up to Kong Jian and recounted what had happened just now in full detail. Kong Jian smiled and looked at Zhang Xiaohua. He said, Spreading incense cult? I've only heard of the inner disciples of spreading incense cult. I've never heard of a guardian disciple. The monks at the side roared with laughter. Haha, in this pugilistic world, only the Dalan temple has a guardian disciple. Even the Tenryu sect doesn't have one. Since when did spreading incense cult have a guardian disciple? Do you still need to say it? They must be impersonating the aroma cult. How dare they provoke our Dalan temple? Zhang Xiaohua had a light smile on her face. She cupped her hands and said, I am indeed the protector disciple of the incense cult. Behind me is also the inner disciple of the incense cult's Mo Sun Gong. If little monk does not believe me, you can send your waist token to the temple and ask Great Master Changgung to verify it. Why are you being noisy here? The word little monk caused Kong Jian's expression to change slightly. The other monks also scolded. You disciple of unknown origins, this is our Dalan Temple's guardian disciple, Uncle Kong Jian. How can you call him little monk? Guardian disciple? Zhang Xiaohua stared blankly for a moment before she laughed and said, Ha 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 ha, I was wondering how it was. It turns out that this is also a guardian disciple. However, I am a messenger sent by the incense cult to the Dalan Temple. I do not have any seniority with your Dalan Temple. This monk is quite young. If I don't call him little monk, what else can I call him? Even if I am also a guardian disciple, I am protecting the teachings of the incense cult. What does it have to do with your Dalan Temple? Kong Jian was furious. He pointed his finger and said, Which guardian disciple are you? How dare you behave so atrociously in front of our Dalan Temple? I am a guardian disciple of the Dalan Temple. I am here to slay demons and uphold Buddhism's righteousness. Who's afraid of you? Zhang Xiaohua also laughed. At this moment, he had a vague feeling that the reason why Abbess Jingyi sent him, a guardian disciple, to the Dalan Temple was not as simple as there being no one else to send. Bring me my weapon. Kong Jian waved his hand. The monks behind him responded and ran back. In just a moment, there were more than 10 of them. They split into 2 groups and carried 2 huge bronze hammers. At this moment, Zhang Xiaohua was also slightly stunned. The battles in the Jianghu were all about speed and killing. Who would use such a heavy copper hammer? This thing could only be seen in the battle between 2 armies. Seeing that the dozen people were moving slowly, Kong Jian became impatient. He ran over and easily took the bronze hammers. He walked towards Zhang Xiaohua and waved the hammers in his hands. He shouted, You little brat, tell me your name. Zhang Xiaohua jumped down from Huan Huan's back and held the great wisdom sword in his hand. He walked forward and said, This one is Ren Xiaoyao. I have already reported it. Could it be that this little monk has a bad memory? Kong Jian snorted and said, Ren Xiaoyao, I advise you to tell us your origin honestly. What are you doing in our Dalan Temple? Zhang Xiaohua curled his lips. You little monk, I've already explained the reason clearly. I didn't say anything else. If you want to fight, go ahead. Who's afraid of you? Ha ha ha, straightforward. Kong Jian laughed. Although you are pretending to be a disciple of the fragrant religion, I will still let you off a few moves. As he spoke, he waved his hammers again. Rin Xiaoyao, I will let you know that each of my hammers weighs 3,000 jin. A pair of hammers weighs 6,000 jin. If you know that you are not a match for me, you should tell us your origin as soon as possible. Kong Jian insisted that Zhang Xiaohua was not a disciple of the fragrant religion. It was obvious that he wanted to teach him a lesson. Zhang Xiaohua did not hold back. He waved his great wisdom sword and said, My sword is not lighter than your hammers. I do not know the exact weight. Ha ha. Kong Jian laughed. There is actually a brat who is more arrogant than me. You think that your sword is comparable to my hammers? This is the biggest joke in the world. Don't blow your mouth until it is crooked. Do the monks of the Dalan Temple only know how to speak empty words? Zhang Xiaohua said coldly. Kong Jian's face was filled with anger. He smashed the 2 hammers in his hands together, creating a pung-pung sound that shook everyone's ears. Then he leaped up and swung the hammer down with his left hand. His right hand didn't stop there either, and his left hand also swung the hammer down. Watch out for my hammers. Kong Jian shouted and swung his hammers down. Woo! A strange sound came from the bronze hammer in his left hand. The sound was very strange, and it was directed at Zhang Xiaohua. Zhang Xiaohua felt a wave of confusion when he heard it. It was just like when Zhang Xiaohua rushed to Lingering Fragrance Peak and encountered Hu Ben's copper staff. Zhang Xiaohua used God's guidance to calm her mind. She thought to herself, These hammers are really something. Not only did the hammers have some skill, but Kong Jian's hammering technique was also very brilliant. The left hammer smashed towards Zhang Xiaohua's head. There was a faint intention of using strength to overcome skill. The right hammer followed closely behind. Its trajectory was ethereal. It was not real, but it was not real. It was just waiting for Zhang Xiaohua to respond before making the final move. Why would Zhang Xiaohua be afraid of him? Seeing that the left hammer had knocked her down, she did not panic. She only raised her great wisdom sword and swung it towards the hammer. Seeing that Zhang Xiaohua's heavy sword was not aimed at his wrist or the hammer handle, Kong Jian was overjoyed. He was born with great strength and always liked to compete with others in terms of strength. When he heard that Zhang Xiaohua had bent Yuan Meng and the others' weapons, he was naturally pleasantly surprised. That was why he came over to find trouble with Zhang Xiaohua. However, he was afraid that Zhang Xiaohua would avoid him, so he tried to provoke him. Seeing that Zhang Xiaohua had fallen for his trick and used a stick to collide with his bronze hammer, he couldn't help but be overjoyed. "Good, then show me how strong you are." As he said that, the right hammer suddenly exerted force and caught up with the left hammer. The two hammers smashed towards Zhang Xiaohua's great wisdom sword. With a loud clang, the twin hammers smashed onto the great wisdom sword. However, there wasn't even a spark. Kong Jian's face was filled with astonishment. His hammers were blocked by Zhang Xiaohua's great wisdom sword, and could not move an inch. It felt as if the two hammers had smashed onto a stone slab. However, even if it was a stone slab, it should have been broken. This Kong Jian's eyes narrowed slightly and he laughed. "You do have some skills. Otherwise, how would you dare to cause trouble in front of the Dalan Temple?" As he spoke, he did not hold back. He raised his twin hammers and used the hammer technique, smashing them down on Zhang Xiaohua. When Zhang Xiaohua saw Kong Jian's hammer technique, she was also happy. She did not need to learn sword and knife techniques. After all, she had the mysterious sword technique. However, the hammer technique was rare. Her heaven-shocking cudgel was still lacking. If she could learn something from the hammer technique of the Dalan Temple, wouldn't it be perfect? How would Kong Jian know what Zhang Xiaohua was thinking? When he saw that Zhang Xiaohua was tired, he smiled and used the hammer technique. He wanted to knock Zhang Xiaohua to the ground with one hammer. In order to see Kong Jian's hammer technique, Zhang Xiaohua memorized it and deliberately showed weakness with her clumsy sword technique. Even so, Zhang Xiaohua's calm appearance made the surrounding disciples speechless. That's right, Senior Kong Jian is an unprecedented genius in the Dalan Temple. He became a guardian disciple at such a young age. However, the strength of his arms, who in the entire Dalan Temple can compare to him? Who is this Ren Xiaoyao? He is actually on par with junior uncle Kong Jian. Although their voices were soft, Kong Jian heard them clearly. He felt ashamed and his hammer was like raindrops that fell on Zhang Xiaohua's great wisdom sword. After a while, Kong Jian repeated his technique. Zhang Xiaohua silently went through the entire hammer technique in her heart. She then shouted, "Little monk, you are used to fighting. Now let's see Ren's sword technique." After saying that, he pulled out his long sword, raised it horizontally in the air, and slashed at Kong Jian's body. Seeing that Zhang Xiaohua did not have any technique and seemed to have no foundation, Kong Jian despised her. "Even if it is a sword embryo, you can't possibly treat it as a padao." However, when Zhang Xiaohua's great wisdom sword landed halfway, Kong Jian felt a trace of vigilance in his heart. He felt that the heavy sword technique was very exquisite. No matter what technique he used, he would be hit by the heavy sword. Therefore, he had originally used his left hammer to block, while his right hammer was used to hit Zhang Xiaohua's waist. He immediately withdrew his right hammer, stretched out his arms, and used all the strength in his body to knock outwards. Clang! Another loud sound rang out. This time, it was more dull than the previous few times. Kong Jian's arm felt sore, and he felt as though he could not hold the 3,000 jin heavy hammer anymore. Chapter 978. Kong Jian felt his arm go numb, and he almost lost his grip on the bronze hammer in his hand. He was shocked. This was the first time he had encountered such a situation. He immediately channeled his inner energy into his dantian, and channeled it into the meridians in his hand. He forcefully stabilized the bronze hammer in his hand. Then he clenched his teeth and a trace of ruthlessness flashed in his eyes. He exerted strength in his arms and forcefully shook the hammer outwards. However, at this moment, Zhang Xiaohua seemed to know that he was going to use force. She gently pulled out the great wisdom sword in her right hand. With a woo sound, Kong Jian's bronze hammer hit empty air. The bronze hammer could not hit anything and immediately flew out of his hand. Seeing that Zhang Xiaohua had blocked his bronze hammer, Kong Jian was shocked. He was even more shocked when Zhang Xiaohua made his arm go numb with a single blow. Now Kong Jian could only feel horror in his heart. To be able to block his bronze hammer, the sword embryo must weigh at least a few thousand pounds. It should be about the same weight as his bronze hammer. Even Kong Jian himself could not lift his bronze hammer so easily. How could he not be shocked when he saw Zhang Xiaohua easily pull out the heavy sword from his bronze hammer, as if it was a piece of straw? However, when Kong Jian saw the hammer flying out of his hand and the shocked expressions of the surrounding disciples, he clenched his teeth and reached into his bosom to take out something. Right at this moment, a clear voice sounded. "Kong Jian, what are you doing?" The voice was not loud, as if the person who spoke was still far away. However, it was extremely clear, as if the person was speaking beside one's ear. When Kong Jian heard it, he immediately took out his empty hands from his robe and put his palms together. He said respectfully, "Greetings, Senior Kong Chan." Bang bang. Two muffled sounds were heard. Kong Jian's two bronze hammers fell to the ground. "Kong Jian, why aren't you training in the martial arts field? Why aren't you studying Buddhist scriptures in the meditation room? Why are you here at the mountain gate?" This sentence was different from the previous one. From the sound of it, it was already close. Zhang Xiaohua looked up and saw a monk in his 40s wearing a moon-white monk robe standing in the mountains not far away. He was looking at them expressionlessly. Reporting to senior brother, "I was originally practicing martial arts in the martial arts field, but when I saw the alarm signal in front of the mountain gate, I came to take a look. I didn't expect that someone would come to my Dalan temple to make trouble. Senior brother Kong Chan, this person is very powerful. Look, my copper hammer was knocked down by him. It's exactly what senior brother wanted to do." Kong Jian reported with a smile, trying to show off his cleverness. Sure enough, senior brother Kong Chan shook his head slightly and ignored him. He turned his head and said, "This poor monk is Kong Chan of the Dalan temple. I wonder why benefactor is causing a disturbance in front of my Dalan temple?" After beating up the younger generation, the older generation came. After beating up the younger generation, the older generation came. Zhang Xiaohua was repeatedly delayed and was angry. She sneered and said, "I am Ren Xiaoyao, a guardian disciple of the incense cult. I accompanied my senior sister Mo Nonggong Zixia to the Dalan temple to deliver the invitation. You don't want us to meet you politely, but the disciples of your Dalan temple have repeatedly obstructed us. I really don't know which sect's rules are these. Do you want Ren to break into the Dalan temple and tear apart the harmony between the two sects?" "Incense cult? Guardian disciple?" Kong Chan's face changed and he said angrily, "Kong Jian, is what Ren Xiaoxia said true?" Seeing his senior brother getting angry, Kong Jian stuck out his tongue and said in a low voice, "That's what he said, but I've never heard of any protector disciple of the fragrant religion. And there's still more than a year before the disciples of the fragrant religion come out. They must be imposters." Yu Kong Chan said angrily, "Since they met us politely, we of the Dalan temple have to respond with politeness. You are making trouble like this. Aren't you losing face for the Dalan temple? Whether or not Ren Xiaoxia is a disciple of the incense cult, you are being rude. Go to the discipline hall and receive your punishment. Otherwise, I will report this matter to the abbot." "Don't. Senior brother, please calm down. I will go to the discipline hall. Senior brother, please don't tell the abbot." Kong Jian was shocked and begged for mercy. He took the two bronze hammers and ran down the mountain path. "Ren Xiaoxia, please forgive him. He is the youngest disciple of the Kong generation. He has always been naughty and mischievous, but he is intelligent and born with divine strength, so, if he is wrong, this poor monk will apologize on his behalf." Kong Chan said and bowed. "Don't mention it." Zhang Xiaohua saw Kong Chan's humility and smiled. "Young people are full of vigor. It is the nature of a young man." "That's good," Kong Chan said with a smile. However, Ren Xiaoxia said that he is a disciple of the incense cult. This poor monk is also suspicious. So, please show me your token, Ren Xiaoxia. That martial uncle, Ren Xiaoxia's token is with me. The disciple who took the waist token slowly walked out of the crowd and raised the waist token. Ridiculous. Seeing that Ren Xiaorao had indeed taken out the token, Kong Chan did not dare to be negligent. He jumped down from the mountain. The moon-white figure was like a goshawk pouncing on a rabbit. The momentum and posture were quite different from the incense cult's Qinggong. Unable to land on the ground, Kong Chan made a grabbing motion. The token flew out of the disciple's hand and landed in Kong Chan's hand. Dragon controlling hand. Several junior disciples exclaimed in a low voice, their eyes filled with envy. Kong Chan took the waist token in his hand and examined it carefully. He handed it back to the disciple and scolded. The disciple of the incense cult took out the waist token. Why didn't you send it to the temple earlier? Why are you still here watching the fun? Martial uncle, please calm down. It's martial uncle Kong Jian. Without waiting for the disciple to finish, Kong Chan waved his hand and said, don't talk nonsense. Quickly send it to the temple and present it to the abbot. Consider it as making up for your mistakes. Yes. The disciple did not dare to be negligent. He turned around and flew down. After that, Kong Chan smiled and said, the Dalan Temple is as famous as your cult. However, unlike your cult, we have the great protective array that can protect us from the harassment of the common people of Jianghu. Every day, there are more than 1 or 2 people who come to our Dalan Temple to become famous. Therefore, the patrolling disciples are really, haha, I've neglected Ren Xiaoxia and Zixia. Miss. It's fine. In the dream, Zhang Xiaohua was blocked again and again. He was unhappy and said, although our incense cult has the great protective array, we still treat the disciples of other sects with respect. Kong Chan smiled bitterly and raised his hand to invite them. Your cult and my cult have been friends for thousands of years. Haha, it's not polite to say more. Please, Miss Zixia, Ren Xiaoxia, this poor monk will accompany you to the temple. Zhang Xiaohua nodded, and the two of them followed Kong Chan down the mountain path. At the bottom of the mountain path was a very wide open space. At the end of the open space was an antique temple built against the mountain. The antique architecture, the ancient aura, and the faint smell of incense showed that the temple was not ordinary. In front of the temple, there were many monks dressed in different colors. They were either practicing spears and sticks, or practicing martial arts. Some of them were gathered together to discuss their experiences. It was a lively scene. When they reached the middle of the square, Zhang Xiaohua saw that on the plaque at the entrance of the temple, there were 3 ancient characters. Dalan Temple. Each stroke contained a different artistic conception. It was as majestic as the words on the archway of the misty mountain villa. Dong dong dong, a melodious bell sounded. The disciples practicing martial arts in front of the temple were surprised. At this time, the monks noticed Zhang Xiaohua and dream in the middle of the square. They were puzzled and immediately packed up. Some walked quickly into the temple while others found a place to stand. Miss Zixia, Ren Xiaoxia, this is the welcoming bell of the Dalan Temple. It is specially used to welcome guests. Dream's face was covered by a white veil, and her expression could not be seen. However, Zhang Xiaohua's face was full of smiles. Kong Chan was one of the few second-generation disciples of the Dalan Temple, and naturally knew about the cult of incense. When he saw Dream's waist token, he knew that she was the true messenger of the cult of incense. She came on the orders of the cult of incense. If the Dalan Temple stopped her for no reason, it would be a laughing stock. Therefore, he had to be patient and try to remedy the situation. Of course, at this time, he was muttering in his heart, how can a disciple of the cult of incense appear in Jianghu at this time? After more than 10 bells, the door of the Dalan Temple opened, and a short old monk wearing a kasaya walked out. His beard and eyebrows were white, and he was a little short. Behind him was another monk dressed in the same way but was much taller. Following the appearance of the 2 monks, there were other monks in different robes. They held wooden fish and other objects in their hands. It seemed like a very grand ceremony. When he saw the 2 old monks in front of him, a strange expression appeared on Zhang Xiaohua's face. He didn't know the one in front, but wasn't the one behind Dalan Temple's law enforcement elder, Master Changgang? Miss Zixia, Ren Xiaoxia. In front of you is the law enforcement elder of the Dalan Temple's Arhut Hall, Great Master Changgang. and the law enforcement elder of the law enforcement hall, Great Master Changgang. Please come and greet them. Kong Chan introduced and led the two of them to come forward. Without waiting for them to come closer, Zhang Xiaohua and Dream cupped their fists and bowed. Disciples of the fragrant cult, Zixia and Ren Xiaoyao, greet Great Master Changgang and Great Master Changgang. When Great Master Changgang saw Zhang Xiaohua, he was slightly stunned. He felt that she looked familiar, but he smiled and put his palms together to return the greeting. Great Master Changgang smiled and said, "The fragrant cult has not been in the pugilistic world for a long time, and we have not had the chance to meet Abbess Jingyi. How has she been in the past 5 years?" Reporting to Great Master Changgang, "Our cult master is doing well. We are here to send an invitation to the Dalan Temple, and invite the Dalan Temple to our Lingxiang Peak to participate in the martial arts convention." Dream raised her head and said. Next, Zhang Xiaohua stepped forward, took out the jade slip from his bosom, and handed it over. "Martial arts convention? Are you going to Lingering Fragrance Peak to participate in the martial arts tournament?" Master Changxing wasn't the only one who was surprised. Even the monks who heard this were shocked. However, before Master Changxing could ask, Zhang Xiaohua stepped forward. When Master Changxing saw that it was Zhang Xiaohua who handed over the jade slip instead of Zixia, he was stunned. He glanced at Zhang Xiaohua before turning to Great Master Changgang. He smiled and said, "It seems that Abbess Jingyi is still brooding over what happened in the past." Chapter 979. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua handing over the jade slip, Master Changxing smiled at Great Master Changgang and said, "I say, when did the fragrant school have a protector? So it turns out that Abbess Jingyi is still brooding over the past." Great Master Changgang snorted from his nose and said, "It has been so many years, yet she still remembers it in her heart. It must have been hard on her. However, the protectors of my Dalan temple are responsible for upholding Buddhism and protecting the Dharma. How could any random disciple compare to them? I wonder what kind of Dharma this Dharma protector of the aroma cult is protecting." Master Changxing smiled and said to Zhang Xiaohua, "Young benefactor's surname is Ren Xiaoxia, right? This old monk will call you Ren Xiaoxia." "I wouldn't dare. My name is Ren Xiaorao. Please call me by my name." Ren Xiaoyao, when this jade slip was delivered, did Abbess Jingyi say anything?" Zhang Xiaohua frowned and said, "His Excellency didn't say anything special. He only said that he wanted to personally deliver it to Master Changsheng." Ha! Not only did Master Changxing laugh, but Great Master Changgang also laughed, causing Zhang Xiaohua to be confused. Master Changxing finished laughing and said, "Young benefactor should know that outside of the fragrant school, the Tenrya sect, and now the Righteous Tao Alliance, even if the masters of the other sects come to visit, we only need to greet them. Our Dalan temple's abbot won't appear. These 3 sects, especially the fragrant school, the Tenrya sect, the Misty school, and the Shundao sect, are all great sects with immortal Tao inheritances. If the sect masters come to visit, our Dalan temple's abbot will naturally meet them. As for the other disciples, no matter which sect they are from or what their status is, only us old monks will greet them. The other sects are fine since male disciples are respected. Welcoming them into the temple and offering them tea can be considered our Dalan temple's hospitality as a host. However, your sect is an exception. For many years only female disciples have come. According to our Dalan temple's rules, they can't enter the temple, so of course, they can't meet Master Changsheng. Therefore, your sect has a lot to say about this. Especially Abbess Jingyi. Speaking of which, there's still a past." Zhang Xiaohua slightly frowned after hearing this. Master Changxing saw this and thought that Zhang Xiaohua had other ideas, so he said, "However, Abbess Jingyi naturally has her own ideas for sending you here. Although she didn't make it clear, your coming to the Dalan temple is equivalent to breaking the promise on behalf of Abbess Jingyi. If we don't let you know, it would be unfair to you. Our Dalan temple has always been merciful, so it's better to tell you so that you won't have any misgivings." As he spoke, he beckoned Kong Chan over and whispered a few words to her. Kongchan had a strange expression on her face. She glanced sideways at Zhang Xiaohua, nodded slightly, and quickly entered the Dalan temple. Come, benefactor Zixia, you can't enter. Our temple will serve tea here, just like your sect master did back then. As he spoke, a group of monks placed the table and tea set under the big pine tree in the square. Master Chongqing said, Ren Xiaoyao, come take a seat first. Once this old monk tells you the reason, and the temple is ready, you can go in and see Master Chongsheng. Zhang Xiaohua and Meng were puzzled, but they still cupped their hands in thanks and sat down under the tree with Chonggung and Chongqing. The small clay pot was originally used to boil wine, but now it was used to boil tea. After Master Chongqing personally brewed the tea, Zhang Xiaohua and Meng politely took the simple teacup and drank it. When the tea entered their mouths and teeth began to salivate. A trace of vitality also flowed into their throats, and they felt that their internal organs were incomparably comfortable. Good tea, Zhang Xiaohua praised. Although the tea brewed by the mountain spring of the Guozhuang house was delicious, the tea leaves were not as precious as those of the Dalan temple, so it was inferior. Young benefactor, you also know the way of tea? Master Chongqing asked in surprise. Zhang Xiaohua chuckled and said, How would I know? I just felt that it was very thirsty. Oh, Master Chongqing was quite disappointed. He poured another cup of tea for Zhang Xiaohua and said, Tasting tea and preaching are my hobbies. Haha, I thought I had met a confidant. I'm sorry to disappoint you, Master, Zhang Xiaohua said. Young benefactor, you've been waiting for a long time. Let me clear up your doubts. Master Chongqing drank the tea in his cup and said, Actually, the reason is very simple. When Abbess Jing Yi was still a direct disciple, she was already a direct disciple at that time. Once, she came to my Dalan temple as an emissary. At that time, Abbess Jing Yi had just received her inheritance and was a little arrogant. She was very angry at the rule that women can't enter the Dalan temple. So she made a bet with my Dalan temple. If she could break into my Dalan temple, I would abolish this bad rule. Otherwise, she wouldn't be allowed to enter my Dalan temple for the rest of her life. This Zhang Xiaohua was somewhat surprised and whispered, Your Excellency, this bet is really interesting. Ha ha ha. Master Chongqing also laughed and said, This old man was also one of the disciples present that day. When I heard about this bet, I also had the same thought. Abbess Jing Yi is a woman, so of course she wouldn't be allowed to enter the Dalan temple for the rest of her life. She used this matter as a wager. Regardless of whether she wins or loses, she won't lose anything. On the other hand, if my Dalan temple loses, it will be a great loss of face. In fact, your sect's previous leader didn't allow Abbess Jing Yi to enter the temple. He only allowed her to pass an important message, but I don't know why she did it on a whim. Moreover, my Dalan temple's previous leader was very magnanimous and immediately agreed. As long as Abbess Jing Yi can pass the 3 trials set by my disciples and enter the temple, my Dalan temple will abolish this rule. Ah! Zhang Xiaohua was stunned. He couldn't understand why the Dalan temple's previous leader was so certain that Abbess Jing Yi couldn't pass the 3 trials set by the Dalan temple's disciples. Of course, since the Dalan temple still had this rule, it was likely that Abbess Jing Yi didn't succeed that year. Could it be Zhang Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat as he faintly sensed something? Master Chongqing continued. Of course back then, although Abbess Jing Yi's martial arts were excellent, and she easily passed the first 2 tests of my guardian disciple, the 3rd test was a formation. Inside this formation, Abbess Jing Yi couldn't beat it no matter what. Therefore, when she came out of the formation, Abbess Jing Yi said that when she had the chance, she would definitely send a disciple to my temple to fulfill her unfulfilled wish. Of course, my Dalan temple's previous leader said that this bet was biased towards Abbess Jing Yi. If it was someone else who came to break the formation, it naturally wouldn't count. Perhaps Abbess Jing Yi knew that she was in the wrong, so she didn't say anything and left. This matter happened many years ago. If it wasn't for young benefactor claiming to be a disciple of the incense cult's protector, and wanting to personally give the jade slip to leader Chongsheng, this old monk might not have remembered this matter. Zhang Xiaohua nodded and said with a smile, Before this disciple came, His Excellency didn't say anything. I reckon he didn't want to break the rules of your honorable temple. He just wanted this disciple to see the power of your honorable temple's protector, so that this disciple can also be a competent protector. This old monk understands what Abbess Jingyi means, but Master Chongqing frowned. Young benefactor is quite young, which makes things difficult for this old monk. Our Dalan temple has a lot of disciples who are protectors, but young benefactors' age means that their martial arts skills are greatly reduced. If I were to fight someone with profound martial arts skills, it would seem like I'm bullying young benefactor. Seeing that Master Chongqing was in a difficult position, Zhang Xiaohua immediately understood Abbess Jingyi's expression at that time. He didn't say anything and just picked up the teacup to taste the tea. Although Master Chongqing said he was in a difficult position, how could his face show that? He was also smiling as he drank the tea. Great Master Chonggung looked at Master Chongqing and asked, Ren Xiaoxia, this old monk thinks you look familiar. Could it be that this old monk has seen Xiaoxiao in Jianghu before? Zhang Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat, but he didn't show it on his face. He smiled and said, This young one has long admired the reputation of the Dalan Temple's law enforcement elder, but I've never had the chance to meet him. Could it be that Great Master has seen this young one somewhere before? Great Master Chonggung pondered for a moment and said, This old monk saw a person who looked quite similar to Ren Xiaoxia in the Misty School several years ago. Oh, there was such a thing? Zhang Xiaohua said in surprise. Isn't the Misty School now part of my incense cult's Misty Hall? Why haven't I heard of it before? Aha! Great Master Chonggung shook his head and said, This old monk has forgotten that young man's name. But he doesn't seem to be a disciple of the Misty School. He should be a disciple of some Huanxi manor. However, that young man from a few years ago looked almost exactly the same. If you can see him. Oh, that's impossible. Even if you find that young man, it's impossible for him to look the same as a few years ago. Alas, time makes people grow old, and the new generation replaces the old in Jianghu. The ignorant young man from back then is now full of vicissitudes of life. Zhang Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat, but his face was full of longing as he said, The ancients often say, An old steed crouches in the stable with 1,000 miles of ambition. Great Master Chonggung and Master Chongqing, although old, are our role models. You flatter me, you flatter me. Great Master Chonggung smiled and waved his hand. Then he asked, By the way, Ren Xiaoxia, just now you said that you came to my Dalan temple to invite my Dalan temple to Lingxiang Peak to participate in the martial arts circle convention. Did this old monk hear wrongly? It should be 1 year later. Haha, as expected, the older you get. If it were me, I would have asked in detail from the beginning. Zhang Xiaohua thought in his heart, but he cupped his hands and said, Great Master Chonggung didn't hear wrongly. It's 2 months later. But, your sect's defensive formation? Great Master Chonggung glanced at Master Chongqing and asked. I'll let the two masters know that the sect protecting array of the incense sect has been opened. All disciples can freely enter and leave the incense sect. The two masters exclaimed together in a low voice. Then they sighed and said, When the fragrance sect appears, Jianghu will be in chaos. Perhaps the entire Jianghu will face such a calamity. Zhang Xiaohua was stunned and thought, This gatha rhymes. I only know that when the fragrance sect reappears in Jianghu, it will set off a bloody storm. Then, your sect must have sent other disciples to send letters to other sects, right? I don't know if your sect has chosen a successor? Haha, replying to Great Master. The sect leader didn't instruct us on this matter. Please forgive us. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.